Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach on Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Bendo.
Present.
Councilmember Mandel.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Vice President Diamond.
Here.
President Aramo.
Here.
Let the record indicate the presence of acting Let the record indicate the presence of acting City Manager Michael Tagney and Corporation Counsel Robert Agostisi. We'll have a salute to the flag.
Commissioner Tagney, would you lead us? All right, thank you for joining us on this holiday eve. Hope everyone has a wonderful 4th of July, and we'll start with the acting city manager's update.
Okay, in honor of the 4th of July, we will start with a safe and healthy summer. The Long Beach Department of Parks and Recreation will host the fabulous 4th of July 4K race and children's 1K race on Wednesday, July 4th, 2018. Registration begins at 6:30 in the morning on Laurelton Boulevard and the Boardwalk. The fun run begins at 8 and the 4K at 8:30. This race is in memory of an irreplaceable and beloved member of the Long Beach Police Department, Long Beach community, Sean Ryan. And we want to thank our sponsors, Sample 1+1, Puma Auto, and All Round Foods. Next, we have the Long Beach happy to announce that the fireworks extravaganza presented by Bethpage Federal Credit Union will take place on Friday, July 6th, 2018. We'll begin on Friday at 3 p.m. with a multitude of craft and food vendors lining the north side of the boardwalk between Long Beach Boulevard and Riverside. In addition, our food concession buildings and Smorgasbord Food Court will be open at 8 p.m. The concert on the Long Beach Boulevard and the beach will begin. This year's entertainment features Bond Journey. Get your spots on the boardwalk and beach early. This is a very, very popular activity and band for us. Also be advised our large crowds are expected, and those attending the show should expect delays in getting there. You can watch the show from just about anywhere along the beach. Free shuttle buses will run from both the east and west ends to Riverside Boulevard and back between the hours of 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Check on the link, the city's link, for more information. The July Arts and Crafts Festival on the Boardwalk has been a tradition for almost 40 years and will run on Saturday and Sunday, July 7th and 8th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. More than 200 vendors line our beautiful boardwalk along the shore of our Barrier Island to show and sell their creative works and merchandise. A number of local organizations and businesses will also join us. The food trucks and the Smorgasbord will be open, and that will take place. That will be also part of the Friday night fireworks extravaganza. We also start our summer concert series beginning Thursday, July 5th. Come down, check out 2018 Summer Concert Series. The popular series is free for residents and visitors and showcase a variety of musical entertainment. This year's schedule includes everything from classic rock to country, and it will include iconic favorites such as Alive and Kicking, Six Gun Country, tribute bands including Cold Spring Harbor, Bon Journey, The Ultimate Benatar, and local bands like Fog and Tabasco Road. The series will also feature many new acts, including Camelot, Tombstone Rose, and the Gold Coast Orchestra. This year we present concerts 4 nights a week. Please note the locations. The concerts will take place on rotating beaches, Monday on Edwards Beach, Tuesday on National, Wednesday on New York, and Thursdays on Neptune. All shows begin at 8 p.m. Unless otherwise noted, and you can download a printable concert schedule at the longbeach.com/beach app. The city is also hosting a blood drive. Summer is crunch time for New York blood centers. With so many people on vacation, school not in session, the need for blood donations is greater. We're asking those residents that are able to donate to come out on July 25th. Your single contribution can save 3 lives. Blood donors must be at least 17 years old or 16 with written parental guardian permission, weigh at least 110 pounds, and be in good health, and have not gotten a tattoo for the last 12 months. When donating blood, eat at your regular mealtime. All donors must present identification with signature and photo. For information concerning medical eligibility, call 1-800-688-0900. For additional information or to make an appointment, call Carolyn Sestro, 516-478-5023, or log on to www.newyorkbloodcenter.org. And the blood donation will take place on Wednesday, July 25th at the Ice Arena, 150 West Bay Drive, from the hours of 2:30 to 8:30 p.m.
All right.
I believe we have a motion first
Yep.
before we start the calendar.
All right. As we start, I'd just like to make a motion to switch the two public hearings. So we will be doing the ordinance to amend the code of the City of Long Beach respective to special events. I'd like to make the amendment to make that first and also table the item and renotice it for June 17th, July 17th, 2018.
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay. On the motion, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
Okay, so item number 2 and the public hearing has been tabled until the next meeting. So on to the first public hearing, which is an ordinance authorizing financing for cost of separation payments to or for the benefit of employees of the city, stating the estimated total cost thereof is $2.5 million, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $2.5 million bonds of said city to finance said appropriation.
I'd like to make an amendment to this item as well. Being that the council voted unanimously on the previous budget for this year, the budget did allocate $1.8 million, $3,600 for this to be borrowed for the 28 employees that are being separated. I believe it's 28. So I'd like to make an amendment to change that 2.5 million to 1.8, 3,600.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Who got that?
She can second.
On the amendment, Councilmember Bendo.
I'd just like to thank my fellow council members. I had expressed concern. Sorry. I just want to thank my fellow council members because I had expressed concern about the 2.5 since it far exceeded what we had allocated in the budget and approved. So I just want to thank them for agreeing to adjust the amount. So I vote yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
I'd like to make another amendment to the item as well. In the resolution, the second line, to include the word XEX. In section number 1, to add the words, to only those individuals who have actually separated from city service. And that sentence continues, to or for the benefit of ex-employees of the city. That's my amendment.
Do I have a second?
Can you say, where is it again?
It's in the actual resolution, it's the second line. It would read, payments to or for the benefit of ex-employees of the city.
Yep.
And in section 1, the first sentence will read, the City of Long Beach, Nassau County, New York, herein called the city, is hereby authorized to finance the cost of separation payments, and this is the part I'm adding, to only those individuals who have actually separated from city service to or for the benefit of ex-employees as opposed to just employees for the city, pursuant to Chapter 258. And then the rest of the item remains exactly the same, subject to the changes.
Got it. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I will.
Okay. Voting on the amendment, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes. Okay. As amended, does any of the council have any comments or questions for the city manager? Nope. Anyone from the public? Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
Roy Lester, 72 Boyd. Did you guys not pay the air conditioning? I mean, wow, 90 degrees in here.
Yes, when the bond was voted down earlier in the year, we ran out of money, so we can't get it until after the 1st.
Bad answer. Anyway, I'm
It's the
trying to.
truth.
There were There were 28 people?
I'm sorry?
There were 28 because in the,
I think it was 28.
there
I
were
might
26 in the agenda.
be. Okay, so then it's 26.
Okay, and
We-
that
we
came
had
out
add
to,
we had to add another police officer. There's a note at the. Yeah. No, I understand that.
Like, as I said, I thought I wasn't looking exactly at the.
okay. And it came out to, not counting the TBA or TBD, you know, not quite yet figured out who it is, came out to 1.1 million. And we're asking for 1.8 now. And that's just caution? Is that, I mean,
No, it's 1.4 million in salaries, and then there's pension benefits and Social Security that also has to be paid out of that.
so that's not, why isn't that listed? When you have the numbers in the agenda, why don't you list the full numbers that have to be paid? So when the public looks at it, they see you're paying out 1.1, and now you're telling me you're paying out 1.8?
Yes, because we have to pay Social Security and
Pension.
pension contributions.
So let me ask you a question. You're saying that the pension and the Social Security comes out to 700,000 on a $1.1 million payout?
No, I dispute your numbers. We have 1.4, so it's about 400,000.
Well, I'm sorry, the agenda said 1.1 on the people that you listed. And these are your numbers. I'm just reading off the agenda. But let me ask you a question.
Wait.
Have you,
Just for clarification purposes, the attachment to the agenda says 1.34.
no, but it also, that's a TBD. That's not a person. Do you see that?
It's
The
a-
last
It's a
one?
police officer that's already informed us that he's retiring.
Then why don't we have a name? If he informed you, why don't you have a name so that the public knows what's going on? You were informed already who the person is, yet you don't put it in. Is that right? I don't get it. Okay, but what I'm asking is, have you guys seen the backup for this? These are the same people that were paid in April, correct?
Some of them.
Some of them? Weren't 25 of them the same people that were paid in April?
I believe so, yes. They
Did you look?
received-
So every,
In
all
order,
but-
in order to help the city make these payments, they're done in installments. Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
so do we even know how much these people, their separation is?
The council received documents on every single one of these folks, yes.
So you know the total of their separation payments, not just what's being done.
Yes, we got a whole pack of
When did you get that?
documentation on each of the people.
Okay.
We received this information on Friday, and I can just hold it up to the public. This is what we received for each and every individual person who's receiving the payouts.
Okay, it would be nice if the public got this instead of just a partial payment of what they're getting. You know what? It's our money, and we'd love to know what it's going for. And you have all the backup documentation?
Yes, for
and
each
stuff
person.
like that?
That's correct.
Okay, and if we want to look at it, we're going to have to go through the FOIL dance? Is that right?
I suppose so.
That's
yeah.
right.
You won't just disclose it?
You submit a FOIL request, and we'll respond to it, just like any other document request, Mr. Lester. No different.
Is it done differently at the school board? I'm just not familiar.
Yes,
How do
yes.
they
When
do it?
we
They could just ask for documents and you would hand them over?
That's not my experience with the school board, Mr. Lester. I can tell you that.
well, I've been there a lot longer than you have. Okay, Rob?
Well, actually, I don't think you're on the board. My impression is that you're not on the board. Are you? Are you on the board?
What?
I'm giving you my experiences with the school board, Mr. Lester. You're not on the board.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
So don't tell me you're there when you're not.
No, I'm not there.
Okay.
But I did spend a lot of years there.
Thank you. Me
Rob.
too.
Okay.
Me too.
All right. So all we're asking for is we'd like to know about these payouts. We'd like to know what the basis for them is. When you give us a list of people and you only have the amount that
I'm
they
sorry,
have-
sir. That's your time. Thank you.
You guys were talking.
That's it.
You guys were talking.
Thank you. Thank you,
So,
Mr. Lester. That's
so
it.
in my,
Your time stopped.
He stops the clock. Thank you, Mr. Dust.
okay.
Mr. Duster.
No, they don't want the question.
Sir. Nope, that's not how it works. You can come up and speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
Dave Garfinkel, 535 West Broadway, Long
Thank you.
Beach. Yeah, so I really find it somewhat, I find it amazing. I don't understand how you can possibly have just gotten this information Friday. You presented this, I don't know how long ago, because I was here last week, and I guess 2 weeks ago, and the meeting before, and you presented it. So how is that possible? And now you're just getting information now, and yet you're giving it to us in drips and drabs. Normally, when you're asking for something or make normal presentation, hey, this is a total, per person or whatever, this is how we're doing it. If it is owing to you guys being so spendthrift, there's no more money left, hey, we're going to pay it in installments. What is each installments? We don't have to go through this all the time, and it's laid out clearly. I don't understand that. How could that possibly be? All right? And, so that's one thing. Secondly, who would even buy such a bond? Because it's such a ludicrous discussion. On the face of it, it's absurd. So to sell it must have some extraordinary interest we must be paying, right? What is that number?
What's our interest normally? We don't know until we go out.
We don't know until when we go out to bond, they bid the interest rate at the time.
Okay,
we
but
were
you have to have
averaging,
some idea, because
we
it's
were
such an
averaging,
extraordinary, ludicrous exercise, right? So you don't even know. You don't know what you're putting us on the hook for. You don't have any idea, right?
If I try to answer. Yes, it's about 2% that we were borrowing for. Then after the last fiscal crisis, the last bond we gave was at 4%.
If I could, I can't comment as to who would purchase the bond or that, but it's my understanding that these installment payments are pursuant to the collective bargaining agreements.
Correct.
That's done that way every year. It's also a negotiated term to ease for the city and also to ease for the tax implication for the.
Okay, fair enough. Then present that in a schedule, okay? Don't present and don't put bogus TBDs, especially if you know who the person is. That's really weird, and that's like smacks the slush funds, and it just underscores the lack of thoughtfulness that you guys continue to demonstrate.
I disagree, sir. I mean, this is just an authorization for a bond. Technically, it could authorize $5 million, but we would only use what we needed to pay the folks that are being separated, and only separated.
Okay, and then
so
what do you do the
under
rest
the
of it?
advice of our comptroller, or our comptroller that is contracted with us, the comptroller that.
Okay, but I don't understand how you do any of this stuff without any sort of oversight, without a controller, without a proper manager, or without. I would hire an outside auditor, right?
We do. We do have outside auditors, and
bond
our
counsel.
former, and we have bond counsel. So this is written by, outside counsel that does bonds.
That's just how to raise the money. I'm saying, like, you guys can't keep track of your money.
We
You
are
fully
keeping.
admit it. Much to your credit, you admit you have no idea how to run a city.
No one admitted that. No one admitted that. No one admitted that.
No, you certainly did. You admitted it last meeting. I asked you, and I said, hey, do you have any friends that you can call you have comparables, talk to other people in other cities. You did. Actually, it's demonstrably provable. If you run the tapes of the last meeting, you asked us, hey, we're out of ideas. We don't know what to do. How can we get more money, right?
No.
You don't need more money.
That's
You're
not true.
swimming in money. You're
That's
giving
not
money to
true.
everybody you know. You have a spending problem. You need to stop spending money.
This, sir, is contractual obligations. This is not spending.
Excuse me?
This is contractual obligation.
Yeah, but
So, like
that's
3%
spending
of
money. Entering into contracts is how one spends money. Don't play word games with me.
I'm
okay?
not playing
I'm
word
I'm
games.
not-
You're
I'm not
just
a clever
incorrect.
guy like you
You're
guys,
incorrect,
okay? I'm
sir.
a simple man.
Our
I
employees
understand,
that work hard for the city for however many years they do, when they retire, deserve the benefits that they've negotiated, that your unions have negotiated, whether they're police, fire, or CSEA. These are all unionized employees that have a union negotiated contract. That's it.
Yeah? Well, I guess what? Then probably we don't have the best people negotiating these contracts. And furthermore, this should not be a surprise. Why is it like, oh no?
This
hey.
isn't a surprise. We voted for this in the budget. Year after year, we voted to bond separation payments in the budget, year after year. This year, it was voted 5-0 the bond, 5-0 the budget, which means every council member here approved of the $1.8 million that we were going to borrow for separation payments.
Well, shame on all y'all for that. But kudos to you for being so free and admitting that, hey, you just spendthrift guys with no real
We're not
clue.
spendthrift guys.
Yes.
This is our obligations.
I got to tell you. Like,
So
long
if
as-
we don't bond for it, then it's, what is it, 1% for every $300,000? 370. So every $370,000 for these payments, we would have to raise taxes 1% to pay for these contractual obligations that everyone in here has.
Yeah, I advise you to not get involved in these where we have to do this, okay?
It's too
Look,
late for that. These contracts were
fair
negotiated
enough,
years
but
and
moving
years
forward,
and
what
years
are you
ago.
doing? What are you
These
doing?
Decades
provisions,
ago.
Mr. Sir, these provisions have been in the contract for decades. Decades. Nobody on this council is
Let
responsible
me ask
for
you
this.
something. Do you have any idea how much it should cost to run the city? What should it cost to run this city? How do you even produce a budget? How do you come up with a budget?
We just passed the budget. Your time is up, sir. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Mrs. Goodman? Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Mona Goodman, 55 West Broadway.
Good evening, Mona.
Good evening. I think the crux of the problem, which I really would like all of you to address this year, in the new fiscal year, is the practice of paying for blood days and due time and sick days accumulated and all of the other accumulated days that add up to these but absurd and impractical payouts that are unsustainable. This practice, as we can see every year, becomes more and more unsustainable. So you've got to do something about that immediately. I understand every time you say contractual obligation, but you know what? The city, you said, is in a fiscal crisis. So do something about it. This is what we elected you to do. And I'm sure this is going to be very unpopular, but I don't really care. Why are we having fireworks? It's really a nice thing, but it costs money. And are we having 3 or 4 concerts a week this year? Because I don't think the people realize that that costs us money too. Do any of you know the figure of what we're going to spend on the summer concert series this year? No.
Yes.
No. You know what?
$210,000.
I am now a single-family household because my significant other passed away 5 years ago. If I don't know every single cost and how I'm going to pay for it, I'm in deep doo-doo, okay? But you guys don't know the cost of these very nice programs. Listen, I love the summer concert series, but if we don't have money, don't have it.
So, Ms. Goodman, the fireworks are sponsored by Beth Faye's Federal Credit Union.
Does the sponsor
And-
cover all of the costs?
It covers the fireworks.
It covers the fireworks,
And
but
when
it
we-
won't,
when
it won't
we-
cover the increased police presence.
When we voted on the budget and went through the budget, the council had a list of every event and what it costs and how much the summer concert series was. I don't have the figures in front of us. I don't know if anyone here does. But we went through all of that during the budget season. And we decided that that adds the flavor and the excitement to Long Beach. And we decided that that's something we wanted to pay for, which is why the budget was passed 5-0.
Are we
I
having
believe the
3 concerts a year,
Some
a
of the-
week, or 4?
I think it's 3 and 4, right? It's 4, mostly 4.
Mostly 4.
Yes.
When I sat up there, it was 3.
And they're partially being sponsored by PSC&G this year.
Terrific. Sponsorship is where it's at, you
Yep.
guys.
We've been
Cutting
trying.
costs
We've been trying.
and cutting our expenses is what we need you to do. But certainly the most important thing is for you to find a way, and you might have to use some magic, to make these unsustainable payouts go away. And honestly, I didn't realize that a few weeks back when we were talking about bonding that those were only partial payouts. I'm shocked. So is there a way for us to get the different steps all in one document? In other words, rather than piecemeal of, well, this first payment is going to be X, and the next is Y, and the next is Z, can we just get a comprehensive number?
Well, the council has it, so you could, I guess, foil for the documents.
I thank you.
And I
Thank
just
you.
want to thank you, Ms. Goodman, for your comments. We're going to take them under advisement. And as you pointed out, when you sat up here, you had to wrestle with the same issues: payout, separation pay, union contracts. It's something that preceded us, probably preceded you while you were a council person.
Yes, I
It's
understand.
an ongoing challenge.
But yes, it's an ongoing challenge, but I think we're at the crisis point of it needs to be taken care of now.
And one of the concerns, oh wait, clearly one of the concerns is these contracts predate everyone up here most likely. Some may have even predated you. Clearly these people who are retiring gave service to the city for decades, and that's why some of the payments are quite large.
But-
so it's something going forward we have our eye on, but it's
Okay.
something we have to deal with in the present now from the past.
But Mr. Mandel, the separation payments, some of those folks, I'm going back to the first round, some of those folks hadn't even separated.
And you make a good distinction. That's why these are solely separation. That's what's on the agenda, and that's why Vice President Diamond added the amendment
She
that
made
it's
the
solely
amendment.
used for separation. So, like I said, eye towards the future, but we have to take care of the present right now. So everything's being taken under advisement.
Okay, but when a company, a business, is in desperate straits, what do you think the first thing they're going to do is? Say, you know what? We thank you all for your service. It's been terrific, appreciated, but we're at a point now where we cannot continue to make these excessive payouts. You can no longer bank your time, and that's the way it goes.
That has to be
Take it under
negotiated.
advisement.
That does have to be negotiated. Legislative Ford. Please state your name and address for the record, Legislative Ford. Thank you.
Denise Ford, 36 Ohio Avenue. I do want to thank you, though, in the issue of this bond, for reducing the amount that you plan on borrowing to $1.8 million, and I'm glad that we're finally going to make it so that the people do separate from the payroll. And I just want to go back to the first bond, the original list that you had the exempt employees on, some of them that didn't separate. Have all those claims been settled? They've all been paid? Okay, all right. So then, moving forward then, and I'm going to follow up on, I guess, maybe the line of questioning that Roy Lester had. So for the people that are on this list right now, where it's, I guess, according to the resolution, it would be about $1.1 million plus $200,000 was built in for possible police department retirees. I guess, you know what, I would like, as nice as it was that you went to 1.8, I'm just curious as to the 1.8. I understand that you were saying that you needed $500,000 for pension, I guess pension payments. But these payments are based on the receiving claims reports that the employees would file when they separate from the payroll. And this would be the resolution that pays them for this. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, because on the receiving claims report, there actually is no line for pension. All it is, it would be basically be the unused vacation hours, the sick leave, the terminal, I guess, pay lag if they, they lag their pay, and then also like any comp days or personal hours. There actually is no line here for pension. So I would think that the pension actually, or any other payments, would be part of the salary, the pension that they would receive on an ongoing basis, which would probably be monthly till, for years to come after that. So I guess my request would be that, considering that we are in such tight financial straits and we really have to be careful and do our due diligence, and I'm not arguing about the payments because I do believe that it was a contractual payout. The employees are entitled to what they were given via their contract, and I do respect that. But, considering that we don't have money to pay for air conditioning and, we are paying for concerts, I guess, whatever you want to call it, I would ask that maybe we take a look at this and say that maybe it should have just been 1.3, so that we know, because we have, in this case, we have some documentation backing that up. By adding 500,000 more leaves it to be questionable as to do we really need it. And then if you have more people that are retiring and that you need to do separation payments, you could come back and vote on it. It's like, seems to be a rather simple process here.
No, I think you're under a little bit of a misconception. Any monies earned, the city is obligated to pay
Correct.
pension contributions in the
Yep.
area of between 25 and 29%.
Right.
That's the state pension cost. That's an obligation as Social Security is. We don't have the luxury of saying, well,
Right.
we're not paying it.
Right.
And it does
Well,
come out of a separate bank.
I'm not-
This
I'm
is
not-
just the money that the individuals are getting,
Right.
but they also, the city's obligated, just like we're obligated to pay taxes, has to pay
Right.
the pension payment and Social Security, their portion.
Their Social Security, but why isn't it not written into the resolution? It clearly states
Because this is the
separation.
money that's given to the individuals. That money is given to the pension system and given to Social Security. It's not going to be given to the pension.
So-
We could, in the future, put a line in there,
Right.
Social Security, pension, and then it would be clearer.
Because
But it's
then-
never been done that way, and
Right.
it may be a way to do it in the future.
All right, so then because what's happening is, like, you're voting on a bond, it says separation payments, you have something that's signed by the city manager, the controller, and so forth, which basically makes it a legal document, which clearly indicates a certain amount of money. But you're telling me that this really isn't the actual money that we're giving them, we're giving them something else in addition to this.
They're not getting any of the other money. The state is getting the money for the pension, and the Social Security Administration is getting the Social Security money. They're getting exactly what that paper says.
Okay, so then all right, so then I think that I have to go back to what Roy Lester says, that we need to have better accounting, and then we need to be able to see the documentation supporting
So
them, the pension and the Social Security
Maybe what we could do
payments
is
that are
ask
made. Yeah.
bond counsel, because bond counsel actually writes
Yeah.
up these bond
Right.
resolutions for
'Cause
us. We
obviously
could
the
ask bond
bond-
counsel
it's-
to add a line that says what the pension
Clearly-
and what the Social Security payment is going to be, rather than just what the payment to the individuals are going to be.
Yeah, because
Is
you-
that how the county does it? Does the
Yeah.
county do it separate?
Yeah, that what you do is we'll make the payments to the people and stuff like that. So
But
it's,
when
yeah.
you vote on it in a resolution, because I'm sure does the county
Yeah,
borrow
yeah.
for separation payments too?
We borrow. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. A lot of times we're trying to take it out of the general fund because NIFA doesn't want us to do that anymore.
Right, so the county borrows
So,
too. So
yeah,
when, in your
yeah.
resolutions, do you
In the
know if
past.
it separates the payments and the pension payments?
No, I think it's just basically the payments,
So
whatever.
that's what we
like
have.
say the same thing with so so if we had an officer that was leaving at $353,000, that was what the resolution would show. But we do it in more like in bulk and then, like you do, like the bulk and then we do the breakouts in the supporting documentation.
So you do it the same way?
Yeah. But we actually, I guess, we haven't really been called into question as to our payments.
I'm sorry?
We haven't had problems, where we've given to exempt people, too much money in the past,
We
and that they
haven't-
stayed on the payroll. Okay?
Sir? We don't have NIFA.
Good evening.
Name and address, sir?
James Kirkland, Long Beach, New York. After listening to what Denise is just saying, it seems like there's a lot of confusion amongst a lot of people in terms of how things are being handled. So just out of curiosity, and since we don't have a controller, who does all the calculations for the separation payments?
We have an acting controller, and she's assisting along with our payroll supervisor and our consultant.
So you have multiple people that are, and so I assume then they check each other's
That's
information?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that's good to know. And the payout forms that require the person separating to certify as to their time and amounts by saying the payout form, are those checked to make sure that they're correct?
It's all coming from the controller's office, and that's my understanding, yes.
And then it goes to
So-
bond counsel.
Yeah, and then proceeds to bond counsel from there.
Okay, so you have that there then.
That's except in the police department. Police department, Lieutenant Dodge prepares all the separation
That's true. Good
documents and
point.
verifies that the time is correct.
Okay. And is there any independent person that verifies all these calculations and payouts?
Couldn't hear the question.
Is anyone independent? That would be bond counsel, right?
No, it occurs during the audit.
And the audit and bond counsel.
Audit and bond counsel would be independent, yep.
So the independent auditors look through all of this as well?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
And each
Thank
of
you.
those entities have their own fiduciary responsibility?
Correct.
They're not aligned with the city?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
Kathleen O'Leary, 350 East Market Street.
Good evening.
Okay. I want to go a little bit backwards. Presently, we're spending $4 million a year on bond interest, okay? We're missing $7 million in FEMA funds, so we raised the taxes $8.3 million, okay? We have a contingency fund that had $9 million in it and now has $6 million in it. I don't agree with the idea of bonding for 1.8 million or $1, okay? I think we should stop borrowing money. I had no knowledge that $3 million had been taken out of the contingency fund, but if that's gonna happen, I'd like to see that in the Long Beach Herald. And I think that FEMA is going to pay us the $7 million they owe us. I'm old enough to know our taxes aren't gonna go down after that happens. But we could use some of that $7 million to make these contractual payments. I agree that they need to be made. I'm from a union family. I'm not gonna argue whether or not they're legitimate, but I'm not sure why there's this knee-jerk reaction year after year to bond for these payments. We have other resources. We have $7 million coming to us from FEMA, and we have $6 million sitting in a contingency fund. And I think it would be more financially healthy to take this money from one of those two places, and as a last resort, bond for it. And you know, $4 million in interest is staggering for any city, and we need to stop the bleeding. This is just a continuation of paying more and more interest, and 4% is high in these days. You know, if you were paying like 1.5%, that would be one thing, but if you're paying 3 and 4% on this amount of money, that's a drain on the city, you know? And I'll just push one more time. You know, I brought up parking meters in 2011. They were shut down. I read someplace that it would bring in like hundreds of thousands of dollars to the city. I don't think we should pussyfoot around with the trial project, you know, just in the one business area. I think we should just jump right into it and put them in all 3 business areas. There's not a town around here that doesn't have metered parking. I can't think of any. So
I think we are going to put it out for RFP soon and see what kind of suggestions we get. There are lots of companies that do parking meters.
Yeah.
So there's different models that we can take, and we're going to take a look at those models for sure. As
Okay.
far as the bonding for separation payments, I think everyone, I think I could probably speak for everyone, that we would love to be in a position where we didn't have to borrow to pay these separation payments, but unfortunately, we're not in a position at this time.
How could you not be in a position? You have $7 million coming to you.
I don't,
and
because
you
I
have
think it's
$6
all,
million
it's
in the
all
bank.
allocated. So do you want to speak?
Yes, a lot of that money is just going to come to the city and go right back out to vendors. It's not, it's rather to bonds that we've passed in prior years. We have bond anticipation notes, tax anticipation notes, and revenue anticipation notes that we've floated over the years to have the money to do the boardwalk. And when that money comes in, as a matter of fact, just last month, we approved $4 million because we didn't get paid the $4 million we were expecting. So as soon as we get paid that, we will be paying off that $4 million debt and reducing our debt and our interest payments. Going back to your parking meters, we do have a consultant that's on board right now. We are looking at all 3 of the sections, in addition to all of our city-owned municipal lots, the recreation lot. We're evaluating the time limits, the different systems, park master systems that would require the person to go to the corner, so they wouldn't, if they put in their meter, they would go to a crosswalk, they'd be in a crosswalk. We're also looking at a system where you just put in your license plate, and that would be pre-registered. This way we wouldn't have to paint lines, and we'd keep our costs down. So we are well into the process.
Okay, good. Can I just ask you a question? Are you saying that we didn't spend the $7 million that FEMA owes us, or we did?
We did.
Okay. So why would we need to take the FEMA funds to pay vendors?
Not vendors, I meant to say bond.
Well, all
Lenders.
bonds.
Lenders.
Okay, all right.
And also, if we did have the availability of money coming in, which one day, God willing, we will, the time frame for these payouts, my understanding, is imminent. So let's say we did have 7 million coming in from another source. These have to be paid first, and to wait on those monies wouldn't be fair, and it would actually be a breach of their contracts to wait and hold up their payments.
But why isn't the 6 million in the contingency fund available right now?
My understanding from our comptroller, we have to maintain a certain amount in that contingency fund to allow us to do the deficit financing that started back in 2011. We have to maintain a surplus amount in order for the state to allow us to continue to finance that prior deficit.
Okay, I'd like to know what that amount is, because I know a little bit of accounting, and I don't think it's that high.
Okay.
So I'd like that to be made public.
Thank you, Ms. O'Leary.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Legislator Becker? Yes, good evening. Welcome to Long Beach.
Thank you very much. Esteemed colleagues, my name is Fran Becker.
Name and
esteemed members
address.
of the council, Fran Becker, 42 Winter Street, Lynbrook. This is my first time here, and I hope it's not my last. And I love this. This is such a beautiful view of the city. And
Thank
just for the record, I am a candidate for the New York State Senate, and I had the honor of serving in the county legislature for 20 years, many of those years with legislator Denise Ford, who's been a great voice on the Nassau County legislature. Just quickly, you should try to fix the air conditioning. I believe it would be a threat to the health threat to seniors who may want to come and enjoy your meetings and participate in this. And also, I happen to use the men's room, and I don't know if you've looked at it, but it's certainly not representative of this beautiful city. So I look into that, and I think for a few bucks you could fix both. So nice to meet you all.
So the air conditioning, we're told, is going to be fixed on Thursday morning.
Okay, good.
They've been
It
working
seemed
the
like
last
it
couple
was
of
gonna be
days.
extended time. Okay.
And the second floor bathroom, I think, is under construction right now, and the third floor was just done, and we're working our way through all the bathrooms and making them ADA compliant as we go.
Great to hear. Nice to
Thank you.
meet you all. Thank you for your service. Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Name and address for the record.
Nora Egan, Mr. Arama, you do it all the time. I don't give my address. Long Beach. So just to clarify, if you can, please, this new bond that's going out, this has been verified with the same bond council that verified the bond in April?
Same bond council.
Same bond council. And so this one is accurate the way that this past one was accurate?
I'm not going to get into a rhetorical battle, but it's the same bond council to answer your question.
But why would we continue to use the same bond council if there's issues with a bond from 2 months ago?
We're not here to talk about any issues that happened in the past.
Okay.
It's not related to the item, Ms. Egan.
Okay, all right, I feel like it is. And Mr. Mandel, just to bring something you said something to the effect of to keep the eye on the ball for the future in reference to Ms. Diamond's amendment, which I appreciate that they should separate. You were here last year for the budget. You didn't have your eye on the ball for the future, which is this year. Is the future just starts now?
No, and as I'm sure, I don't know if Ms. Goodman is still here, everything changes as things go on. A lot of us were here. We were all here during this budget when we voted for 1.8 million for this bond. In the prior years, we've changed things as we've gone along. We've modified things as things had to be tweaked. You just saw that tonight when Councilwoman Diamond added an amendment to make sure that it's now explicitly stated in this resolution it only goes towards separation payment.
But why would that not be stated last year or the previous year? And I understand, I appreciate Ms. Goodman was here, but I wasn't paying attention, or maybe I wasn't living here at the time. But since I've been paying attention, you've been sitting here, Mr. Aramo, Ms. Moore, and Ms. Diamond for a part of it. I laughed at your comment, like you're just the
I'm glad I brought a smile to your face.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Mr. Gussler. Come up next, Ms. Blanchett. Yeah, come on up, Mr. Gussler. Name and address.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Jay Gussler, Long Beach. By way of explanation, I had a procedure done today on my face. The bad news for you guys is I'm going to live. A couple of quick questions.
But you're not any prettier.
Bond counsel, we keep making reference to bond counsel. Is that Harris Beach?
I believe so.
Yes.
The same firm that represented Homey and Scott in their fight to prevent other Democrats from being on the ballot this past summer?
Again, it's a rhetorical point, Mr. Gusser. What's your next
wouldn't
question?
know about that.
One and the same. Okay. All right. Now, I'm not going to waste my time with Homey or Scott or Anthony, but I'm going to ask John and Anissa to ask for proof that any portion of the proceeds of this bond that's being authorized here today is going to the pension system. Every employee here, if they're separated, they're already products of the pension system. They're receiving pensions. If they had taken their money in lump sums, they would not have made any contribution to the pension system. So I do not see how taking their payments over time in biweekly installments as an accommodation to the city can create a pension obligation for the city. So I'm going to ask the two of you to ask for some proof from somebody that any portion of this money is going to the pension system. I'm telling you it's not, and I'm telling you that that's a crock. Now, the other thing is, the amounts of money here all reflect biweekly payments that are going to be made going out over the next 12 months of this current fiscal year. So they're not lump sums. We don't need to make this bond now. This is a long fiscal year. We just started our fiscal year. The coffers are overflowing. There is no reason why these monies need to be borrowed now. I think that we should back off on this. I think we should wait until we see how the city's fiscal year shakes out and we have a clearer picture of how things are going to be. It's not like anybody who's entitled to a payment on this list isn't going to get their payment next payday or the next payday or the next payday. These aren't lump sums. And while we talk about them as contractual obligations, and as far as I can see from this list in front of me, they are all contractual obligations. But here's the problem with contractual obligations. They're not sent down from the finger of God. They're not the 11th commandment. They're negotiated. You guys need to sit down with your unions and negotiate with them. You haven't sat with the firefighters union hasn't had a contract since July 1st of 2010. I believe the PBA doesn't have a contract. I know the COA doesn't have a contract. Your crack labor guy, Jim Lackaruba, who you brought back for $130,000 a year on the QT, he negotiated the last two contracts with the CSEA. Were there any concessions made on the forms of accrued time you could get paid out on the end of your contract in the course of Mr. Lackaruba's crack negotiations on the city's behalf with the CSEA for the last two agreements that the city has entered into with them? No, and I'll tell you why. Because as an exempt, Mr. Lackaruba and Mr. Schneerman before him both received the benefits of the CSEA contract that they negotiated. So there was no incentive for them to negotiate down what would ultimately cost them in their own pockets. So you guys really need to stop blaming contractual obligations and get serious about working on what those contractual obligations are going to be.
That's your time. Thank you, Mr. Gusler.
Yeah. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Good. I'll start if you want. You can start.
You wanna go ahead?
Sure, I'll just to answer one of those questions. The reason why we're doing this now at this point in the year is because we have been advised by bond counsel that the best practice pursuant to the local finance law is to actually authorize before you make a single separation payment. It's part of the revamping of this process, just to answer that question. And thank you. And so with respect to your other questions, obviously the CSEA in terms of, I don't believe any of the accruals were affected in the last round of contract negotiations. It is interesting that you're focusing just on the CSEA though, Mr. Gusler, because, well, no, actually, Mr. Gusler, there's something called the Triborough, there's something called the Triborough Amendment to the Taylor Law, and excuse me, I'm not, Mr. Gusler,
Please let him answer,
Excuse me,
Mr.
Mr.
Gusler.
Gusler. You had your 3 minutes. Now I'm trying to respond to your questions. It's that simple. Oh, all right, Mr. Gusler.
Okay, Ms. Blanchette, please,
Thank you.
You're next. Please state your name and address for the record.
You guys are so cute when you flirt. And you need to stop asking me for my address. It's really creepy. Allison Blanchette. Stalker. One of the questions I had was, who's looking at these?
Speak in the microphone, please.
Who's scrutinizing these numbers? But I believe he might have. I think he answered. You guys answered that. It's Harris Beach is our bond counsel. Is that?
Yes.
Harris Beach
It is
Bond
okay.
Counsel,
And
then
you're
the
trusting
independent.
them that it's correct, like it was correct last time.
Right, it's
also
Or
auditors
incorrect?
as well. Auditors as well.
Who are the auditors?
AVZ.
Huh?
AVZ. A is in Apple, V is in Victor, Z is in Zebra.
Oh, it's like an outside.
Mhm.
in-
Yep.
Okay.
Independent firm.
All right. Well, I don't really have questions. I just have kind of some comments related to this because I'm getting serious deja vu of, back, I think it was 2011 when the city borrowed $4.5 million to cover payout costs.
They've been going down steadily.
It's been going down steadily, which is great. And I remember that because I was outraged. And I remember some of the new city council people and some of the people who were on, Scott, Fran, I see Fran's here. We were all very outraged by all of these payouts. In fact, former Councilman Michael Fagan and Len Torres had actually filed a report. I don't know if some of these new people here know this, but filed an injunction in Supreme Court to try to block one of the payouts from Sofield Sr., who was getting a $500,000 golden parachute. That was bullshit. Such bullshit.
Please don't curse.
Sorry. Sorry about that. I didn't know you could pick that up. And we were also outraged, right? So with the payouts, these big payouts that are happening now, especially that first round of them, where's the outrage at those?
Actually, if I could address it, because I was here, I was actually
Yeah.
one of the council members who
Yeah, I remember
was a
that.
plaintiff in that suit to try
Yep.
to stop the payouts, and that's
Right.
when the city found out the hard way. It's a contractual obligation. The city lost. We had to make that payout, and in all fairness, it was a contractual obligation. Acting Commissioner Sofield at the time was entitled to the money. The
Right.
courts held the same way, and we
Yep.
had to make the payout. When Ms. Egan had brought up why we're doing now what we should have done then, that was also a lesson. I'm sure the prior council that sat here before us, maybe they also tried to stop that type of payout, but they were also constrained by a contract, and the contract is the contract. So
And-
we found out the hard way, and that's why
Right.
we sit here tonight having to make similar payouts, albeit for a decreasing amount each year.
Right, because that 4.5 million, they weren't even, people weren't even going to get paid before Christmas. That was horrible. But I just don't understand why this kind of thing happens 2011, 2012, and it's still happening. Yes, it's less amount, but there's a broken system that needs to be fixed. And this isn't just about, being mad at Jack Schneerman. This is being mad at a history of this happening. And how do we stop this? This is just ridiculous that it keeps going on. And I'd like to just read a quote.
Just to answer that one question, we're going to see relief, not for another 10 years. The first contract where we were able to negotiate a cap on the payouts, those employees are relatively new. So you're not going to see their payouts until they have at least, in the police department and fire department, 20 years, and in CSA until many years after that. So some remediation has been put into place, but until those employees max out, you're not going to see the benefit.
Okay, and then I'll pass this to you after, just a printout from the Long Beach Herald. Anthony Rifalato wrote an article in May of 2012 about, Jack Schneerman was just brought on board, and this is in regards to the city was auditing payouts then. Schneerman said that the city would conduct the audit internally or with the help of an independent auditor, and that the accrued time needs greater scrutiny. Quote, "We have no reason to believe that anyone has done anything wrong. We're doing the audit in order to do our due diligence and to make sure everything is in line. Before you let $575,000 go out the door, you have to take a hard look at the numbers and make sure they're accurate." That is what Jack Schneerman said, and that's why we all rallied behind him and we all believed in him, when he first took office. This is the Jack that we bought. Yes, and I'm
Time's up.
finishing my statement. So that is the Jack that we bought, right?
Yep.
So what happened in 5 years that those initial numbers were not held under such scrutiny? He actually did the opposite of what he said. He did what the people he swore against he would not be like, the previous administration. I just want to throw that at you, okay? And here, you can
Dave,
take,
do you want to get the handouts?
if anyone's never
Thank you.
read this, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Blanchett.
You're welcome.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Dina Fiore, Long Beach, New York. I just have one quick question. Mr. Agostisi, you said upon recommendation that we should be bonding first before we make separation payments? Authorizing separation payments. So is what we did the last meeting for separation payments illegal because we paid everybody out in 2017 and then didn't bond the money till 2018?
I'm not in a position to answer that question. Only bond counsel could. I'm not. I don't provide the legal advice in here, and I don't even write these resolutions, frankly. So I'm just not in a position to answer it.
It would lead us all to believe
we-
that the same bond
Right.
counsel must have given us one decision last time, and now we're doing things. I'm not knocking that we're going
No, I
forward
understand,
correctly, but I'm more concerned about what we might have done
I understand.
illegally.
The way it was explained to me was this is the best practice under the local finance law. That's how it
Okay.
was.
And I would question why they didn't give us best practice in 2017, and now they're giving it to us in 2018. It wasn't an issue then. That's all. I just needed clarity
Okay.
on that.
Thank you, Ms. Fiore. In the back? Mr. Ashmead, you come next. Please state your name and address for the record.
Roseanne Stone, Long Beach, New York. I'm a very big believer in unions. I was a teacher for 37 years in a town that was very political. At one point, our town was in this situation that we were bleeding money. Teachers were allowed 180 days of sick pay at the end of, or terminating, it was in the contract, terminating for their payout, okay? They came to us in the first or second year of our contract and said, we can't do it. We're bleeding. The people in the town can't take it anymore. We're going to have to renegotiate these contracts. We sat down, we did it. We did it in steps. First, we went from 180 to 120. From 120, in the first 3 years, we went down to 90. By the time I retired, I got 60. But I got 60 that I helped out that community, okay? This is what I want to see from Long Beach. We're bleeding here. We're crying. I retired here. I retired here because I love this city. I love the beach. But I can't afford this. I didn't do this to my community that I was living in, that I worked in for 37 years. We worked together. So what I don't understand here is why we can't renegotiate these contracts in a timely manner. There's no time frame. I don't see the time frame here. And this disturbs me greatly, that I don't see you guys working for a time frame. You're not coming to all these people here and saying, you know what, the cops have, firemen have 5-year contract. 5 years, we're going to go down to this. Maybe somewhere down the line, it's going to be use them or lose them. I don't know what you guys have to do, but you've got to do something. We're bleeding. We're hurting. All of them. We're all hurting. So please, do something for us. That's all we're asking. We voted for you for this. We want you to do this. So please, do the right thing. Thank you.
Do you want me to respond?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, hi, thank you. Yeah, sure. Ma'am, thank you very much for those questions, and I think they're very salient points that you made, all of them. With respect to the CSEA, you know, we are constrained to a certain extent by the Triborough Amendment to the Taylor Law, and what that basically means, what that law is, the principle it stands for is that a contract, an expired contract, continues in effect until a new contract is ratified, even after it expires. So it tends to detract from the municipality's bargaining leverage. With police and fire unions, it's different. They both have the ability to declare an impasse in negotiations and proceed to something called interest arbitration. For all intents and purposes, that is the only real opportunity the city ever gets to make the changes like the ones you're espousing today. Just for your own edification, we are proceeding to interest arbitration with the PBA this year, late summer, early fall. So I hope that, as that process continues, that they'll come back and support the city's efforts in that regard to make fundamental changes like the ones you've described. We may wind up in interest arbitration with COA, and if the Firefighters Association decides to declare an impasse after 7-year expiration of their contract, we may end up in interest arbitration with them as well. In the meantime, we are still saddled with those agreements, as the prior administration was, and the prior administration, and it just goes back and back. But we are moving forward with an interest arbitration with the PBA this year.
So just to be clear, it's been mentioned that the fire department doesn't have a contract. They would have to declare the impasse for us to go to interest arbitration,
For an
even though
established-
we're at an impasse?
For an established union, yes, they have to declare the impasse.
We can't?
No.
Okay.
Stop.
Mr. Ashmead, you're next. So he's advocating to negotiate the separation payments away. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening. John Ashmead, 38 East Beach Street, Long Beach. Just some questions and observations. First, is the New York State Comptroller aware of the new bond that we're seeking authorization for? I seem to recall under the deficit financing requirements that had to give approval or be on notice.
You have to ask the controller. I don't know.
I don't know.
Does the controller have the answers? The controller here?
She's not here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't have the answer. You'd have to ask the controller's office.
The question for those who didn't hear, I believe that the New York State Controller is required to be put on notice of and possibly approve any new bonding by the city. And I've asked whether that was correct and whether it's been achieved, and the people up in the dais did not know. Can I ask a question? Has there been any analysis of the city's bonding capacity? You have bond advisors, not just bond lawyers, but you have other bond advisors that go out and deal with the underwriters. Has anyone advised you, and I hope you're looking at this, about what they believe the bonding capacity is of this city?
Yeah, I remember when was Shari James the acting controller or controller? I remember her discussing our constitutional limit and how we were nowhere near it. I don't remember the precise numbers, though, Mr. Ashmead. I believe she was the last person to discuss it in an open meeting, though.
All right. Well, I'm not asking what your constitutional limit is. I'm just what the bonding capacity is, right?
It's the same. We're talking about the same thing.
All right. In 2011, we had $50 million of long-term bond debt. We now have $115 million of long-term bond debt. And at some point, we won't be able to make those payments, which are becoming a huge portion of our budget every year. And if you haven't done it, I'd recommend that you speak to different bond advisors or fiscal experts to figure out what is the flexion point when the city can't borrow anymore, legally or practically. Because otherwise, we're just hiding the ball in the residents. And maybe we ought to just tell them there's going to be a 50% tax raise, but we're going to stop with the bonding, because you're going to have to pay that piper sooner or later. Is there any plan other than bonding and parking meters to actually figure out a way to generate revenue streams to keep paying these separation payouts? I would, following up some of the comments earlier, I think it was Ms. O'Leary and others, I would ask, even if you go forward and authorize this bond, I understand that means that you're not actually issuing it, and you should figure out if you could find money anywhere else, stretch every dollar you can, and not make any payments to the extent that you could find cash to do it, so that we don't get burdened further with debt, and then we end up not making tough decisions. And that's not good for you, it's not good for us. And I would also ask, without there being 100% certainty as to the veracity and the legality of every payment made, whether it's to an individual or to the pension fund, we don't make that until that's been verified. And I would also ask for you to agree amongst yourselves that not a single payment is made without the unanimous decision of the City Council. I'd like to make a comment. I think it was Mr. Agostisi who made a comment, and maybe in response to Mr. Gussler, about the accrued time and the bank time, and mentioned the CSEA. I may be incorrect, but it was my understanding that under the new CSEA contract, the ability to, vacation days was increased, the ability to bank that, and a cap was taken over off of sick days. Is that your understanding?
The vacation days were increased to 80. I was asked about a concession, and I believe what I mentioned was that there wasn't a concession on that topic in the CSEA contract. That's all I got.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said there wasn't. When I was discussing that with Mr. Gussler, I mentioned that I didn't think there was any concessions with respect to those topics that you raised. And
Right.
the vacation was raised from 75 to
Went
80.
from 50 to 80.
No, in the CSEA contract, it went from 75 to 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've understood to be 58, but in any event.
That's your time.
All right. Let me just finish my point. He responded to me. Simple. If separation payouts are the biggest problem, or accrued time in banking, and you've all said that's a real problem with they're stuck with these contracts, make sure the next time you negotiate a contract, you don't increase the ability of people to bank time. It's not good for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak on the public? Sure. Please state your name and address for the record.
Phyllis Labuddy, Long Beach. I just want to make a point. I've been an educator for over 30 years, older than all of you. Usually the expression is, let's float a bond. Well, I have to tell you something. Bonds don't float. They bury the cities or the school districts that float them. The definition of insanity, according to Einstein, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Commissioner Tagney stated it very well. He said this has been going on for years and years and years. And I was up here in the 1970s making the same statement, and now your debt's $115 million. Times that by 4 or 2%, and know that you are burying this city, and it's driving these people insane. Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak on the public hearing? Sir? Yeah. Please state your name and address for the record.
Professor Solomon Wasserman, proud resident of this city for 31 years, 42 years, resident of this great country who bought me from a former Soviet Union. I have been to this council before, and I am gonna speak straight. Mr. Agostisi and Mr. Tagney. On the 24th of May, I came to this building and I asked to deliver a letter to both of you. They didn't let me in, but the secretary came down and stamped on the letter, the third copy of it, that it was done on the 24th of May. What have you done? Did you invite me to meet me? It was addressing finances of the city. Last time I was here, what, 3 weeks ago? Mr. Agostisi, you took a letter of mine, right? It was with the confidential information. Did you invite me to talk about it? Mr. Tagney, you were very busy with some kind of accident on the beach, right? Okay, you have a double duty, you're probably overwhelmed. I have the vision how the city can become financially insolvent. It will take time and work, but it can start working right away, from tomorrow. There were 5 or 6 paragraphs in this letter outlining how we can create $1 million of revenue coming into the city every year. How we can increase number of parking spots desperately needed by the city by between 18 to 1900 places. What have you done? I'm asking you because I'm your payee. What do you do?
Nothing yet, Mr. Glassman.
When would you start? When you will invite me? They don't let me on the 5th floor, whatever. It's okay. You want to, we'll go to the Starbucks. We'll have a discussion over there. Listen, okay, if I have a little bit of financial wisdom and engineering wisdom, why don't you use it? Is it because I have a kippah, I'm Jewish? Listen, I want your position, Mr. Tugny, not a commissioner, but maybe city manager, or at least a consultant, with one condition. I will work here in the office for the hours you will let me, or you ask me to do, but I want to have on the side my private business. I know, I have an understanding, and if you want to check and discuss it with me, how to improve financial situation of the city. When will you wake up and start moving your behind? I said my piece. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening. Ma'am, I think I saw you. Sir, 1 second. You can go next. This woman is coming down the aisle. Thank you. Name and address for the record.
Catherine DeMondo, Long Beach, New York. First, I'd like to commend Kumi Diamond for putting in her resolution. Kumi, if you don't mind, could you read that resolution to me for the bond about not paying people who are not separating? Do you still have that? When you finish your time, I'm happy to read the resolution. I would like you to, I'm not going to take very long. I just want to hear the resolution. Finish your time, I'll read it. Okay, thank you. So, it's my understanding that there's a difference between the amount of the bond and the total obligation?
Yes.
Okay. Is the difference in number about $400,000 between what we've been shown and what's actually being taken out? So it's my understanding that the previous payouts were about to the exempts who were not contractually obligated to get any money from the city upon their separation from the city. Additionally, they haven't separated from the city.
Mr. Manda, could you keep it about this item? Thank you. Can you just keep it about, restrict yourself to this? Mr. Manda, could you please restrict yourself to this item? Thank you.
I am. Seems to me.
It doesn't sound like you are. Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Mr. Mondo, please.
You're interrupting me.
Really? Oh, no.
It's $350,000. It strikes me that if you clawed back the money that was given to people who are not entitled to it and who are actually not separated from the city and are still here.
What strikes me, Mr. Manda, is you're not keeping it to the item, and Mr. Manda, here's what else just struck me. You just flipped me off in a public meeting. That's what strikes me.
It seems to me that you're still sitting here when you took separation pay.
Mr. Manda, your comments are not related to this item. Do you have anything, Mr. Manda? Do you have anything germane, Mr. Manda? Do you have anything germane to this item?
It is completely germane, because if they took back the $350,000, the amount of the bond would actually not have to be so excessive. It would be a cost-saving measure. Something you should look into.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir, please say your name and address. I'm sorry.
Harry Brandel, Long Beach. Still on the Jack Sneerman. Did they ever find out who signed his payoff? We've been promised this since May.
I think we've already discussed it.
Who signed the payout?
The deputy city manager.
Huh?
The deputy city manager.
Okay, and second, if his payouts are found, because union people have a contract. All right, 1 second. If he got more than he was entitled to, is he also getting pension payments from, if it's an illegal payout, is he getting pension payments from that payout?
That's all not related to this item.
It is part of it. You know what? You know why it's part of it? I'm paying your salary. I'm the taxpayer. I've been here for 40 years, okay? So it's no different than me walking into a bank and stealing money, all right? What you're doing, and don't give me the eyes, okay? You don't want to answer. But this
It's
is
not that we don't-
but this is stealing taxpayers' money. All right, if they're contractually entitled to it, if they're union people, and that's part of their contract, Schneerman wasn't. Okay, if he got double or triple what he has, and then you're paying money and a lot of other backroom deals.
Sir.
We're tired.
Sir.
But we're tired of it. Okay, we're tired of it, and we're not going to take it much longer. All
Sir.
right, November is coming.
Sir.
November is coming. We're going to see you all out.
Everything that has to do with the previous bond is being looked at by the New York State Comptroller. Every
Are we going to find out
every-
who signed for Schneerman's payout?
Every single council member up here received every single email, which there was well over 100, that was forwarded to the New York State Comptroller's office in Hauppauge. Every single one of us. All that is being investigated, which is why we're here.
That's what you
and
told
we're now
us.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
what
happening.
you told us in May.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they said it would take 6 to 9 months.
Okay. Are
6
you
to 9
going
months.
to, and the people, if they're found that what they did was not legal, are we going to claw back?
If we find out that it was
All right,
that it was illegal
Because
and done
maybe
improperly,
this, maybe
yes,
this
we're going
bond-
to have to take
maybe
action.
this bond issue would have never even had
That's
to
not
have come
true.
up.
That's not true. This bond was happening either way. That's not true, sir. Assemblywoman Miller, thank you for joining us. Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Missy Miller. I'm from 105 Richard Street, Atlantic Beach. From what I'm hearing here this evening, you have a bunch of people here who are just begging for transparency. That's all they're asking for. They just want transparency. They want the answers. They're not asking for hard things. They're asking, there's a discrepancy from what is written on a paper and from what they're being told in person. There's nothing wrong with them asking for an answer when they're being told something different. And to be answered in such disrespectful manner is shocking to me. It's unbelievable to me. This is a city council. This is not middle school.
So,
So
Assemblywoman,
I just want to say, please be respectful. They're trying to be respectful. We're all trying to be respectful. We just want answers.
so to speak to that, this is the first time I've seen all the names and amounts listed in the actual resolution for transparency. The difference is because of the pension and the Social Security payments, which we said we would ask Bonds Council to include those numbers next time we have a bond like this.
And that was a discrepancy.
It's not really a discrepancy,
No,
but
I think it was unclear what Denise Ford was originally asking for. If they're looking at one number and to just ask them to list what the extra payment amounts are for. Not to say, oh, it wasn't included, that's not being paid to the person. We understand that wasn't being paid to the person, it's being paid
Right.
to a different fund, but it wasn't listed anywhere for us, the people, the
And,
residents, to see. They're only seeing one figure, yet we're bonding for another figure. There's a discrepancy.
And
we're
then we
entitled
asked-
to ask what the difference is.
and then we asked
to
to
be spoken
include it.
to as if the nerve of you to be asking. They have the right to ask. It's their tax dollars going
I
to
agree with
fund
you,
this.
and that is why I said we will ask for that to be on the next, if there is
Thank you.
another agreement.
Thank you.
Because I agreed with that, and even Ms. Ford said they do it very similar in the county. It's the same way. So I don't see a problem with including that figure on here. We're not here to hide anything. This is what it is.
And I just would ask, moving forward, I just think that sitting up as an elected official, you have a certain responsibility to try and be respectful to the people who are asking you questions. And I know from my seat, it's not always easy. We take a little bit of a hit here and there, and it's hard, but you got to suck it up. You got to just take it on the shoulder and not answer in such a disrespectful manner just because you don't like what's coming at you. And I think Mr. Agostisi has a little work to do when it comes to that.
Ms. Miller. Excuse me, Ms. Miller. Ms. Miller, thank you. I've worked. In my
Okay,
defense, Ms.
okay.
Miller,
Please calm down.
We've never met before,
Please
Ms.
calm
Miller.
down.
It's a pleasure to meet you, and I appreciate your comments. However, I've worked for this city for 12 years. You can't begin. And are they being respectful to me right now, Ms. Miller? So you can't even begin to envision the sacrifices that I've made for this place. You can't even begin. All right? So when you say to me, when you say I have some work to do, when you say I have some work,
Please.
do you see where I'm going? I mean, and a resident comes up here and actually flips me off in the middle of a presentation. I don't think I'm being treated respectfully. I'm an employee, and you know something? I have just, these are just fundamental.
Listen, I'm in this public eye also, and I've gotten plenty of negative comments and negative stuff, geared towards me, and I just
It's just a matter of
take
decency.
the upper hand. I turn around, I walk away. I do not
But my point is
to
decency
it.
runs both ways. That's all I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Please, sir. Please.
President Aramo, as Mr. Cannon is coming forward, can I just make a quick statement? I just want to address the crowd. I think it's important that we, again, in the spirit of civility, let's all listen to one another. We don't have to agree. We can agree to disagree, but everyone has the right to say whatever it is that they're saying. We want to be respectful. This is City Hall. This is a City Council meeting, and we should respect that. So please, I'm asking, please hold all comments until someone has finished saying what they're saying, and then we can move forward.
Thank you, Councilwoman Moore.
I agree with that. I completely.
Come on up,
totally
sir.
agree.
Name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Steve Camden from 10 West Beach Street, Palm Beach, New York. Thank you very much for doing the jobs you have to do. I understand that both sides of the situation here are hot, and I respect both sides. One of the quick things you just said, which is very pleasing, was to say that the investigation to what's going on with all the finances in town is proceeding. Is that correct?
I didn't make that statement.
Okay, is that a
Our
correct
understanding
interpretation of what I heard?
Is the New York State Comptroller asked for everything and requested all the documents and received over 100 emails. We all received the same emails with hundreds of pages of attachments.
So
And
you guys have provided what the 100 emails requested? You guys have provided what was requested?
Yes, and we received, every council member received copies of that,
Right,
yes.
and so, but you guys also fulfilled what was requested?
Correct.
Okay, so can we get a week update every meeting of how the investigation is proceeding? Not that you can't give the results, I know that, but you can at least say, we are up to this point of providing this. They've asked for this,
So they haven't
providing
asked for
this.
any new documents in a while,
Right.
as far as I know? Is that correct?
You know, because it'd be great to know that the investigation is ongoing and is proceeding, and therefore in October or whatever, there will be a conclusion to something. The word is that I'm hearing, and again, that's no fact of anything. A word means, just a word. I'm hearing that there really is no actual activity going on in investigation. I've heard many politicians say we're going to investigate, we should do this, but I have seen nothing of documentation of it actually occurring. So anything you could supply that would concretely show us it's in the works and proceeding and update us on would be greatly appreciated.
Well, months ago, when this process started, I was told that it would take 6 to 9 months, and that was it.
Right. But I'm
So
not asking
I
about-
assume,
I know
as
that,
I think
but
everyone up
if
here
we-
assumes it is ongoing.
I hear you. So instead of assuming, what I'm trying to do is make sure there's a way to every meeting say, hey, by the way, here is the ongoing. And so we really feel comfortable in it ongoing, not just, oh, it's sometime in the future we might hear about something.
And I think one of the benefits of the state doing the investigation or whomever's doing it, whatever they find, they're going to make public. It's an independent out of here. I think
Exactly.
whatever we were asked to provide was, excuse me, just 1 second, I'm sorry, was provided. Everything we know, the public knows. We're waiting as the public is. And if they want more, I guess we'll provide more if we have it.
Right. So is it possible to get a satisfaction of some sort of, it is ongoing confirmation once in a while that we're at a phase, maybe phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of something from the city or from whoever, not the city.
Can that inquiry be made to the investigators? And if they're
Is there, who can we request that from? From
you know,
the,
First, we can make the request to the comptroller's office, but we have to get back to the item here.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Anyone else on the public hearing to authorize a $1.8 million bond for separation payments? Seeing no hands, I close the hearing.
Okay, on to the regular calendar. Item 1 is an ordinance authorizing financing for cost of separation payments to and for the benefits of employees of the city, stating the estimated total cost thereof, $1,800,300,600, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $1,803,600 bonds of said city to finance said appropriation. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 2 has been tabled. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the construction of an Office of Emergency Management and for the city of Long Beach with the lowest responsible bidder and to amend the budget.
Okay, this item was approved a while back for plans to be drawn up for the Office of Emergency Management, and now this is to do the actual work according to those plans. All the money is FEMA reimbursable from the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery.
Any questions from the council?
Just a clarification, what we're actually building is an emergency operations center, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a difference?
I don't know if there's a difference.
That was it.
Okay.
Just looking for
I just asked if there's a difference.
There is. An Office of Emergency Management is a structure with people and equipment and facilities. What we're really building is a facility, an emergency operations center.
But we already talked about, when we passed it last time, correct me if I'm wrong, of the personnel that would be in there and authorize the payment.
No,
of that.
I get that. All I'm clarifying here is we're building the facility for the emergency, for the OEM.
Correct.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
yes,
all I'm
but
clarifying.
eventually it will be
Yeah.
enough.
I'm just clarifying.
Okay.
what it
No,
is.
just to give you
That's all I'm doing.
a little bit
Okay,
better
I understand.
clarification. Just to give a little bit better clarification, there's a New York City OEM, a Nassau County OEM. They don't operate 24/7 unless there's an incident. So what you do is you have an OEM, and then prior to an event, you would activate it, and then at the completion of the event, you would deactivate it.
Anyone from the public about the OEM? Mr. Gusler. Name and address for the record.
Good evening again, Jay Gusler, Long Beach. So this is about $1.5 million or so to build a office, for lack of a better term, or a space in the back of this room, correct? So we're talking about a carve out from this room that would take away from the square footage available for the public to assemble to attend these meetings. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And if I recall, last meeting or the meeting before, there was an agenda item to remediate some asbestos as part of the ADA bathroom project downstairs. Yeah?
Yes.
All right, and we're standing here in sweltering heat with no air conditioning, right? All right. So why on earth would we want to dump another $1.4 million into this dilapidated, decrepit disaster of a building? Are you telling me that we can't take that $1.5 million? First of all, I question the necessity of it, but that's a whole other story. Allowing for the fact that there's $1.5 million out there on the vine that is ripe for us to pluck, are you telling me that there's no better facility in this city, no better location that we can dump this $1.5 million into and make a functioning facility instead of putting it here and taking away space that is available to the public to attend these meetings? And especially in a building, the roof leaks, the AC don't work, it's riddled with asbestos. Come on, guys, we can do better than this.
Anybody else? Sure. Mrs. Adelson? We could say that. State your name and address for the record.
Fran Adelson, 74 Harmon Street. Does the resolution state that it has to be in this building, or is the resolution basically to spend $1.5 million on an OEM office or space like that?
This is a process that's been ongoing for a long time.
Right.
So the grant application outlined this program. That was approved. We moved forward with the design phase. The money can't be used for anything else. And
No,
can't be-
meaning that, does it have to be here, is what I'm trying
Yes,
to
because we
say.
already spent the money on the design
Right,
based
for-
on the
for
parameters
here.
of this building.
Okay, so, yes, this building is old, and yes, there are problems. However, having been one person that, with some of you up here, was around after Sandy and sitting in Commissioner Tagney's office and being part of everything, I think that it is imperative, and nobody understands the importance, or not nobody, but a lot of people don't understand the importance of having something in a place where our fire department is here, our police department, the proximity. It is desperately needed. I think that, we all met in Commissioner Tagney's office, which was great, but it was small, and you had people walking in and out, and, I can't begin to say how important I think it is that you do this. And if it has to be here, it has to be here, but it needs to be done, and I really hope you'll pass the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Adelson. Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
Roy Lester, Long Beach. I know I mentioned it at the last couple of meetings. Is there anything you've done to make sure we're not going to be just left with one bidder?
I thought this was two bids.
There were two bids received.
Well, there were two bids received on this.
I don't know that. It just says that I haven't
says-
seen the bids.
Yeah.
Lowest responsible bidder.
So it's whereas after due advertisement thereof, two bids were received.
Okay, even two. There's no way we're spending $1.5 million, we can get more bids?
There's a standard process for putting these things out for bid. We can't force anyone to bid on it.
No, Mike, I know there's a standard process, but what I'm saying is, and I brought it up last time, you're getting a lot of only one bids, and in this case, two bids. If the standard process isn't working, maybe you can use a non-standard process for thinking about us as taxpayers so we get more bids, so we get a better deal. Do you think you could try to find some other way of doing it?
You could also end up with a worse deal. You know what you have with these. If we send it out to bid again, and they decide both these companies are going to be the only two, and they bid higher, now we're paying a higher cost.
I don't understand that, Mike. When you put out to bid, you're putting it out to bid. You're trying to get the lowest bid. Then you vet the company. You look at the bid, and then you vet the company.
Roy, if you put it out to bid, if I'm this company and I say they wouldn't accept the 1.448 million, and they want me to rebid it.
I'm not saying rebid it. I'm not saying rebid it. I'm saying the process. No, you've already gotten the bids. I'm saying the process. What we're doing is only giving us one bidder or two bidders. And I'm saying when you only have one or two bidders, you're not getting the best deal. You might be, but you're usually not. Okay, so
That's a lot of speculation.
that's what I'm asking. Yes,
the
that's
next
all I'm
item,
asking, for a
Mr. Lester.
process to expand the scope.
Mr. Lester?
All right,
The next item has 5 bids.
that's great, but
I
this
agree.
is a $1.5 million item, and it has two bids. No, sometimes you get a lot of bids, and sometimes you only get one. And that's what I'm arguing against, the one bid. There's something wrong with the process when you only get one bid or two bids. And I know Mike says this is the standard way of doing it, but if it's not working, let's look for a non-standard way. Thank you.
Commissioner Mirando?
Hello, John Mirando, Commissioner of Public Works. Spend most of my time here in Long Beach. I just wanted to give some people information on this OEM office that I think everybody's missing. First of all, this was one of the several projects that was picked out by the Governor's CRP Committee for revitalization. This is a project that the money has been made available to the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. The bidding process was controlled by the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. We were required to put certain items in the contract to meet their standards. We were required to advertise in several of the publications that they told us we had to advertise in. This was the second time we bid it. When we bid it the first time, the bid came in higher than the allowable amount that would have made us have to go back and rebid it under Wick's law. So we made some significant changes to the structure. The structure also includes a lot of unused space behind the wall here on the council room floor. So this thing was done under tight supervision by the state. This also will not cost the city a dime. The money will not have to be laid out by the city. As we review the invoices of the contractor, we will review them, make recommendation to the state, to GOSA. They will approve the payment, send us a check, and then we will forward that check to the contractor. So I just want everybody to understand the way this process works, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of calm people down about it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. Is there any other comments on the OEM? Seeing no hands, I call next item.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the disposal of tide line debris on an as-needed basis with the lowest responsible bidder.
Yes, every year we have a tremendous amount of seaweed that occasionally washes up on our shoreline. As it starts to decompose, it creates a horrible, horrible stench. We do clean it up right away. We've moved it behind the, by the incinerator, and then the smell has impacted the neighborhood, the Pinetown houses and such. So to be more efficient and get rid of this noxious substance as quickly as possible, we have put out a bid that they have to respond right away on our request.
So the situation we had last year will be rectified.
It should not happen again.
Great. Anyone else from the council have any questions?
No, thank you.
I'm just, again, just happy that we're moving forward, because last year the stench was just, it was just unbearable in that area. Thank you.
Anyone from the public? Seeing no hands, next item.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Woodmere Fire District for the performance of fire alarm dispatching services.
Yes, Lawrence Woodmere, the Woodmere Fire District separated with their current dispatching service. We put in a bid to them, and I'll call on our fire commissioner to explain the details.
Welcome, Commissioner Kemmons.
Good evening. Up until about 3 years ago, we dispatched for, of course, Long Beach, Lawrence Cedarhurst, and the Island Park Fire Department. About 2 years ago, Island Park decided to go in another direction and left us, and that was a loss of about $18,000 worth of income. That was the contract with them. I was approached a few months ago by the Woodmere Fire District looking for us to dispatch for them. We sat down with them, discussed numbers, and we put forward a number for the first year of the contract, $28,000, which is $10,000 more than we were receiving from Island Park when they left, with increases for every year of the 5-year contract. There would be no expense to the city. All the equipment needed and any additional services would be paid for by the Woodmere Fire District. Our fire dispatchers are here in this building 24/7. They're all part-time employees with no benefits, don't accrue any time, and don't get any payouts when they leave. And they're here anyway. So this will be a $28,000 income to the city with no expense.
Great, thank you. Anyone from the council have any questions for the commissioner?
Thank you.
Actually, I do. Would this require any additional staffing, any additional build-out, any additional cost to the city?
No, no additional staffing. Like I said, we have our one dispatcher on duty 24/7. The Woodmere Fire District is pretty much identical to the amount of calls Island Park had previously that our dispatcher handled. Obviously, if there's anything major going on, as in the past, we would sometimes bring on a second dispatcher, which is like a straight hourly rate, not even an overtime rate, and that is, built in. So for this purpose, there is no additional cost to the city whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments about the dispatching from Woodmere Fire Department? Seeing no hands, next item.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to pay administrative costs under the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, authorizing the passing on of administrative costs to the owners of buildings included under such act, and directing the city controller to make billing therefore.
Okay, very basically, we have 60 rent-controlled units within the city, and to administer the program for those 60 units, the state charges a fee of $10 per unit, and the city charges a fee of $2. The city collects the entire $12 and forwards the $10 to the state. So we would collect approximately $6,000, or exactly $6,072. $5,060 would pass immediately through to the state, and the city would capture the $1,012.
Any questions from the council? Nope. Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing no hands, next item.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding Cold War veterans. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held July 17th at 7 p.m. On to the voting. Item 1 is an ordinance authorizing financing for cost of separation payments to or for the benefit of employees of the city, stating the estimated total cost thereof is $1,800,600, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $1,800,600 bonds of said city to finance said appropriation. Introduce and move the adoption of this item as amended.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Benda.
So, anyone that knows my view on bonding for these things knows how I feel about this. Look, we did as much due diligence as we can. We were given payout sheets. Unfortunately, we don't have 20 years worth of people's employment timesheets to verify what's on here is accurate. I still have questions because some of the same people signing these sheets are some of the same people that signed some of the previous sheets that we now know had overpayments in them. So I'm probably, I'm waiting anxiously for the results of the audit. But that being said, we did as much due diligence as humanly possible. I did approve the budget with the 1.8 in it. I had told the council members here I would not support 2.5, and they agreed to change it to 1.8 to satisfy my concern. And since I did approve that in the budget, I do vote yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
A few things. In the words of many residents that were here, it's basically said that this has been going on for too long. And it hurts me to hear that this has been taking place since the 1970s. Again, it was later said that the system is broken, and indeed it is. This resolution, the amended resolution as presented, is the beginning of inserting controls to fix the process. However, budget reform is still desperately needed. The formal process of documenting payouts must be improved. More importantly, an independent forensic audit must still take place. And then lastly, the hiring of a comptroller is critical for us to move forward. With that being said, I vote yes.
Vice President Diamond.
I think I can share everyone's sentiment when I say that bonding and borrowing for this type of payout is not something that any of us like to do. It's not, it wasn't something we wanted to put in the budget, but we also recognize on the other end that these are employees who have given their service to our city for many years and who have counted on this as part of their retirement. And to turn our backs on them now, or the current employees, and signal to them that this is not something we're willing to adhere to, is just not fair to them, no matter what union they're in. So for that reason, while nobody wants to budget, and I think we continue and all await the audit from the comptroller's office and any other independent audits, but until that time, with this information that we have here and the list of employees, I vote yes.
I think we all hope there's a time when we don't have to borrow or bond anymore for this, but seeing that this item is going to be unanimous, you could tell that whether you agree with a particular council person or not, that we've all looked at the information and come to the same agreement, so I vote yes.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the construction of an Office of Emergency Management for the City of Long Beach with the lowest responsible bidder and to amend the budget. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
I will.
I-
Mr. Bender.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
So just so everyone's clear, I was actually on the Community Reconstruction Zone Committee that allocated the money for this. This is not going to cost the city anything. This is being paid for by the state. So I vote yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
I think this is a wonderful project that continues to make the city more resilient and more prepared in the case of an emergency. So I am proud to vote yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the disposal of tideline debris on an as-needed basis with the lowest responsible bidder. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Woodmere Fire District for the performance of fire alarm dispatching services. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you once again to Commissioner Kemmons. And with that being said, I vote yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Thank you, Commissioner Kemmons. I vote yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to pay administrative costs under the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, authorizing the passing on of administrative costs to the owners of the buildings included under such act and directing the city controller to make billing therefor. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
And finally, item 7 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding Cold War veterans. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
You got it.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes.
City manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the city clerk. Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Just want to wish all the residents here a happy and healthy 4th of July. I will. Yes.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
President Aramo.
Yes. Okay, now we enter our good and welfare portion of the meeting. Every resident that wishes to speak gets 3 minutes of uninterrupted time. Please be respectful. And in the words of our former president, Torres, maintain decorum. And as we start good and welfare, Commissioner Miranda, would you like to speak? Mindy Dovberg. Please state your name and address for the record. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. My name's Mindy Dovberg. I wanted to discuss the city manager position, and I wanted to make a point that it should be independent, and the person should not be a city employee, and that we need to make sure that the person is not tainted. And I also wanted to make a point that Councilwoman Anissa Moore was very, I don't know how to say this, but she made a statement on Facebook a couple days ago that we all in Long Beach should be plastic-free in July. And when I saw that you guys all got plastic water bottles,
Yep.
I thought that was just a little tad out of context. I see that you have a water bottle that you brought, and I just think that, you know, Long Island's going to try to go plastic-free. I'm going plastic-free in July. No straws,
and everything. And I think that maybe City Council should really try to do that, at least for the City Council meeting, since it is being broadcast. You guys have all these water bottles here. It's just irritating me. So, thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Ashmead? Name and address for the record.
John Ashmead, 38 East Beach Street. Thank you. Just a couple of follow-up questions. Mr. Camden was asking some questions about the comptroller investigation, and there's two different things to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong. I thought there was an audit which actually had been announced. I think there was a report and a letter issued by the New York State Comptroller before this city requested an investigation. So when you say 6 to 9 months, that was my understanding of the audit, the full audit, as opposed to the budget review. Is that what you were talking about, or were you talking about the payout investigation?
My understanding, the separation payments is part of the audit of the city. It's part of it.
Okay, and there was purportedly a letter that was sent to the New York State Comptroller in mid-May that requested specifically that the separation payouts be investigated. Have you seen that letter?
That the council sent?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
All right, well, a
Doesn't have
month
my
ago,
signature.
and it's on the videotape, you all said that you would have a copy of that letter, because I've asked about it several times, specifically by that week, and it was
I
said
don't know that
right
we
here
s-
that you would.
I don't know that we said we sent a letter. I know I said to you multiple times that I spoke to Comptroller Tom DiNapoli personally a few times.
No, it's on the videotape, specific
Okay.
questions and statements about a letter specifically asking for an investigation of the separation payouts. Has anyone
Does
on
any
the
other
dais
council members want to speak
seen
to this
such
letter?
a letter?
No.
All right, because I can send you the video clips. the
It's fine,
exact
I believe you.
time. So you're not even aware if such a letter exists?
I did not sign a letter.
Mr. Agostisi, did you see it, draft it, sign it?
No, I don't recall that, no.
Who would do that in the city? Who would draft it and send it to the New York State Comptroller asking for an investigation of the separation payouts?
Probably the city manager.
Do you know if he did it?
I don't.
Ms. Diamond, have you seen it? Mr. Bendo? Ms. Moore?
No, I have not
Mr.
seen it.
Mandel?
Mr. Ashmead, if you have that video clip, if you could send it to me, just so I have a frame
I
of
will
reference.
send it to you. It's repeated several times. I'm going to
Okay.
send you each an email with exact video moments when that was said, that there is such a letter, and it had gone out, or it would be going out that week, and it'd be circulated to all the council members. Ms. Moore, do you remember that discussion?
Yes, but the letter itself, because there are several letters, so can you just,
The one requesting an investigation of the separation payouts.
okay, got it.
Have you
Thank
seen that letter?
No.
Have you seen it, Mr. Bendo?
No.
Well, if such a letter exists, I would ask that it be put on the city website.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Solomon Wasserman. I think he's left. Brendan Healy. Name and address for the record. OEM, right? No?
Oh, no.
Ah.
Am I here to talk about the OEM?
No, but that was last time, right?
Well, that was last time. I talked about the quality of life.
Minnesota's.
Minnesota's.
Yes.
Brendan Healy, 68 New Hampshire Street, obviously in Long Beach. Talking a little bit about quality of life, but actually just to go on the OEM thing for a second, as a practitioner and someone who's had experience in emergency management, represented the private sector during Hurricane Sandy, I applaud you for authorizing the resolution for the OEM build-out. It's really imperative, obviously, the city of this size has an emergency operations center at the ready versus having undesignated space that could sort of be built out on the fly.
We appreciate your expertise. We really do. Thank you.
Second comment is why I came up here today, talk about quality of life in the West End. I did send a letter to all the council members about, can everyone hear me, by the way? Okay. I sent a letter to the council about a week and a half ago, or a week ago, just about that, and I want to give a quick update. So first of all, thank you for taking an opportunity to read that letter. The West End is plagued with significant quality of life issues during the summer months. As many visitors come to the West End, particularly at 2 o'clock, 3 in the morning, those visitors in many cases ravage our streets and really create havoc across our neighborhood. Last weekend, the police department did a fantastic job in stepping up enforcement. Commissioner Tagney I think he instructed Lieutenant Stark and as well as other members of the department, bicycle patrols, and really it was a really good effort. But at the same time, the members of the community who came to our West End Neighbors meeting last week as well took proactive enforcement by stopping trespassers going on their property. It was one weekend. There was a very good show of force, and what I'm specifically asking for here is that we keep up not only that show of force, but we look at different solutions on how we can cost effectively increase enforcement in the West End. It does cost money, obviously, to have bike patrols. I'm not sure where that money came from, but it is expensive to do that time and time again. So again, the West End Neighbors really does appreciate that from a quality of life perspective, and we thank you for taking our concerns into consideration. The last item on that is to ask for a public safety commission. I believe there is one in the city today. It's on the website. I don't know if it's actually in existence or not, but I'm asking that the city consider reestablishing the Public Safety Commission. I saw some names on there. Liz Treston looked like it was a member on that as well. That we reinvigorate that commission and or committee, and that can help opine on continually improving on quality of life issues in the West End. So those are my comments, and thank you. And everyone got my letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Was
Thank
it
you for
emailed?
reading it.
I was on vacation, so I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure I'll get it.
Yeah, it's in your-
my mailbox.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes, sir.
As part of the quality of life issue, has there been discussion of potentially starting a neighborhood watch type thing?
I think that's a great suggestion. I think what people have done block by block, some people on certain blocks have taken that on their own accord, but I think that's a great suggestion, something that could be cost effective. I know the auxiliary police do stop at 11 p.m. I know they operate under a loose civil, protection law. So I don't know if they can be out as well, but I think we need to look at those sort of solutions that are cost effective to the city.
Yeah, Councilwoman Moore used them with some success, called neighborhood walks.
Neighborhood walks.
I've taken some with her, and they're just seeing a presence has an impact.
Yeah, the city actually did post on the website. I know the police commissioner posted that the number of police officers obviously outnumbered by the visitors to the West End. And it's unfortunate because we do have a significant, well, it's fortunate that we have great visitors to the West End, obviously, but we do need to have an additional show of force and presence, so any cost-effective way we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to add and speak to that, absolutely when other members of the community see their fellow neighbors, it really creates a level of accountability, and you will see over a period of time that the behavior will shift because of that. So I think I would absolutely encourage that. I would encourage that in your area as well.
Right, and that's something that if the Public Safety Commission, if it gets restarted up, could look at. I'd ask that to happen as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Lou Dubau. It appears that Mr. Dubau might have left. Christina Kramer. Please state your name and address for the record.
Christina Kramer, 361 East Broadway. So, first of all, I'd like to say I'd like to be anywhere in Long Beach except for here. I want to be having, a drink in a bar or someplace else. But I feel it's really important that I am here because of the quality of life in the east end of the beach. In the beginning of the season, they posted a sign on the east end saying no volleyball playing on the Franklin side of the beach, and there was no other signs anywhere else. And we had this meeting that said we could play from Franklin east, and then when we put up our nets again, we were told to take them down. I just want to go over a couple of points that volleyball is part of the Long Beach community, and many of us in the community have moved here because we love the beach, we love the swimming, we love the surf, and it's a great way for us who are getting older to keep active lifestyles. We are never on the receiving end of the emergency services or in the way of emergency services. I've never heard of a person not receiving emergency care because volleyball nets were there. It seems to me like Paul Gillespie is running the designation of where volleyball can be played, and I'm not I'm not sure why he aren't the lifeguards in charge of the safety of the swimmers and not the comfort of the bathers, which, by the way, volleyball players always play in the back of the beach where nobody wants to sit anyway. I've taken pictures over the summer, many, many years, and nobody's back there, and for some reason it's irritating to either some condominiums or some people, or I don't know what the real reason is why we can't play in the back of the Franklin Boulevard beach, but I keep being told there's a city ordinance, but that same city ordinance also says we can't play ball or throw frisbee and other silly things. And I understand there was some come to Jesus in a small meeting. My husband was there, but he came out of that meeting with a different understanding than some of the other people in that meeting. So I'm asking for clarification of the ordinance. I'd like some justification why we can't play on our beach, and it's not because it's too small. We've been playing there for years, and it's not any smaller than it has been in past years. And if there is a city ordinance that says we can't play, why isn't it global? Why are we selectively being pinpointed? There's a little part of us that thinks we're being harassed for something. We don't know what the underlying reason is, but we'd like to know what it is, and we'd like it publicly stated. So that's all my time. I couldn't go into all the reasons why it's so awesome to play volleyball, but
No, so I think everyone here appreciates that Long Beach is definitely part of our culture, and when this issue, it pops up every couple of years, there's some issue. We had asked the commissioner to, get Phil Ragona and Paul Gillespie and convene a meeting with everyone, and that meeting did happen that your husband was at. And my understanding was that it was taken care of and clarified, so
That's what
beyond
Oliver
you
understanding was.
telling us that there's still an issue,
why I'm here.
that's new to me.
And I do think, just to clarify, I think one of the issues with why the chief of lifeguards was involved with the issue is that there's the emergency lane and look, I was not at that meeting, so I don't know the conversation that
understood.
took
We
place,
understand as
but
volleyball
the
players that
reason
there's an
he-
emergency lane. We're always courteous to it.
Right.
What I believe happened is one of the inconsiderate volleyball players put their net near the ramp, and then they walked off the beach, and that pissed the lifeguards off. And we're willing to man or follow rules, but just to take it away from our whole community of that area. I have kids.
Well,
I
I don't know that it
social.
wasn't taken away this past weekend. That's the beach that I use. I live on Franklin
I
as
saw
well.
you at the beach, and I was going to talk to you, but I didn't want to
Always welcome
interrupt your
to.
beach day. I couldn't do
It's
it.
okay.
I was standing 10 feet from you.
Lots
but
of people
no,
do.
it wasn't being played on the beach. They took it down.
But in the, I thought I saw it on Saturday, but
Saturday and
whatever.
Sunday, I was down there.
So, whatever
my
it
husband
is.
went to go set up at 10:30. Paul Gillespie himself came down and told him to take the net down.
I think that there was a resolution that it could be that there were that was the information that we received.
That's my
That
understanding because I
they
received
had-
several messages from people because Lincoln is my beach, and I heard from a lot of people who are on Franklin, and it was my understanding that there had been a positive solution reached with respect to the
Can I
communication.
explain what I think the discrepancy was? They walked out of the meeting and said Franklin East is playable. When you walk down the Lincoln Boulevard ramp, if you look to the left, that's technically Franklin Beach. If you go to the right, that's the Surfer Beach. So
Sure.
we set up our net right on Franklin Beach, and they came and told us to take it down both days. So
And lastly, it's also my understanding, because we just had conversations with the commissioner before we came down, it was my understanding that there is a meeting, there's going to be a meeting that will be held on Monday with
Mhm.
respect to this issue. So apparently there's another meeting, and this is, I guess, in reference to what you're saying now about the Franklin/Lincoln
Yeah.
perspective. But that meeting is going to be held on Monday.
I realize there's so many other pressing issues in Long Beach, and this is just a little blip.
But it's still important.
It's fine.
It's a part of the quality of life. It's still important.
And as far as emergency
we're on it.
services, don't we have them cross the entire beach? Why are these beaches being singled out? I don't understand. We've been playing there for years without problem.
Okay.
So
Well, hopefully
please.
that meeting on Monday will
The
give
good
you
news
some
is
further
when the Army Corps finishes their project, there should be plenty of room for everybody.
Yes, thank you for
Thank you, Ms.
listening,
Kramer.
and I look forward to hearing a resolution to this.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Phyllis Labuddy. Okay, thank you. Jim Kirkland. Please state your name and address for the record.
James Kirkland, Riverside Boulevard, Long Beach. Last week there was an article in the Herald about Mr. La Caruba having returned to the fold. And it seemed strange that he had been working as an employee of the city for a couple of years and nobody seemed to know about it. He had been hired as a consultant at $40,000 a year. And then all of a sudden, you know, he relinquished that job or was no longer needed at that position. And by that very afternoon, he was again hired. And it just seemed kind of weird that he go from $40,000 to $130,000 just by signing a piece of paper, which is amazing. And the question is, did he no longer get the $40,000, or is he getting the $40,000 plus the $130,000? And so that's part of one question. The other question is, how was he able to be employed here for 2 years and nobody seemed to know about it? You know, I don't know who's in control of the personnel here in town, but the council should have some. He was, you know, at a very fairly high level. He was an exempt employee, so I would think you would all know one another. You know, he's not a stranger. You would recognize him in the halls. So why he existed for 2 years and nobody knew about it seems kind of bizarre. And if somebody was supposed to tell you about it, that they rehired him and hadn't, why wasn't that done? So those are just some of the questions I happen to have. And it seems
I
strange.
would just say that the council receives documentation on every single hire, whether it's the beach clicker for $6.50 an hour or the most highest paid employees. We receive once a month, I believe it is, a personnel report. This month it's a little thicker than usual because of all the beach hires that we
Sure.
have.
Understandable.
But if a council member chooses to read or not read that, is, you know, that's.
But-
I don't know why anyone wouldn't know.
But it went on for 2 years. It didn't just happen. I mean, it went on for 2 years.
And also, the hiring of senior staff is the prerogative of the city manager. So.
Of whom?
The city manager.
Oh. Oh,
Wait,
you
is-
can't, you can't
But it
answer
wasn't
that
him.
question
Are you
right now.
Jim
asking-
Lacaruba is long gone, and he worked for the former city manager, Jack Schneerman.
Right,
So.
right. Well, it's just that I know he also negotiated that wonderful contract we have. That's all open-ended. But in any case, I was just curious as to, you know, how this managed to happen for so long a period of time.
And Mr. Kirkland, just to clarify a point, I think you had said, how was the city not aware he was employed? That
No, I
isn't
meant
what it was.
more or less.
We were aware he was employed, it was the capacity in which he was employed.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the context.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I was referring to. Yeah, because he was a 1099, and then all of a sudden he becomes, you know, a regular employee. So that's a big difference.
I didn't see the article.
So, all right, thank you.
I didn't read last week's Herald. Yes. Ms. Blanchett, here to talk about fashion. Please state your name and address for the record.
You and this address thing.
Listen, I ask and you, don't tell, and that's
You've
it.
seen my dreamy boyfriend. It's not going to work between us around him. All right. Allison Blanchett. So what I signed up to speak about, I actually already spoke about before. So since I have 3 minutes, you know, I'm not going to pass when I can spend 3 minutes talking about transportation, my favorite thing. These are things that I would talk normally to the head of transit about, but I'm no longer allowed to speak to Michael Robinson. I'm not allowed to stand near him, and I'm not allowed to look at him. Did you know that? I know
did
you
not.
didn't know that.
I did
That's
not
what he
know
told me. I was hoping that Tagney would be here. Hopefully he'll see this and hear that because that's kind of BS. So I'm going to run down a few things. I've been receiving so many phone calls and text messages and Facebook messages about the bike lane signs on the boardwalk, MIA, because apparently I am the Department of Transportation because our two department heads don't do anything. So I've received a bunch of messages. We don't have the signs on there, but what I have been doing every so often is I've been chalking bike lane in different colors on there, and I've been hearing comments from people. Don't tell Tagney I've been doing that because he'll arrest me. But I've been doing that, and I've been hearing comments that it works and people like it. So just a little bit of tactical urbanism, and I probably will continue doing it, so try to stop me. Bus schedules. The bus schedule at the train station that I've been complaining about for years, it got changed. Thank you. If we could get bus schedules at every single bus stop, that would be wonderful. Of course, we'd actually need signs at the bus stops too. Trolley signs. Again, we've had this trolley that Michael Robinson boasted about when he ordered it, how cool it would be. We have not had trolley signs. Like, there was an acknowledgement of the electronic sign over by Long Beach Road and Park I saw on my way in saying, expect traffic, take the trolley. But where do you take the trolley? Like, there's no signs. And even at the train station, when people are coming off the train, we want to encourage them to jump on the trolley, right? Because we want them to visit the West End. And we could probably use some wayfinding signs as well to tell people to get to the West End or to the East End or whatever. The sign, it's advertising a service, it just makes sense. The Public Safety Commission that West End guy talked about, yes, please. I'd been talking about a transportation and public safety type of committee that I'd been emailing Jack about, but of course he never listened to anything I said, so that never happened. But I think that kickstarting that would be wonderful, and I am going to throw my name in the hat for that, of course. And part of public safety is some things that we are lacking, which I've been talking about for a while, pedestrian and bicycle outreach and education. We have the highest bicycle commuters on Long Island. It's insanely amazing, but we have no education or anything. TAP grants, I spoke with, thank you Mandel for helping me out on that one. I spoke with, yes, I know, but I'm finishing my sentence. I spoke with Patty Bourne about that. Our DOT is not applying for TAP grants. I offered to write this grant. I'm in the system. I can help write. I just need the city to be the sponsor for it. I'm really disappointed that we have 2 DOT people who aren't applying for grants. Okay, last thing, traffic cameras.
Traffic
Speed cameras, red light cameras. Just throw them everywhere, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blanchett. Kevin Martinson.
Hello,
Good evening, Steve. Your name and address?
Kevin Martinson, 447 East Harrison. The last thing I wanted to do is come here on the eve of 4th of July, but I felt compelled to be here because I felt in a lot of issues that our best interests as a citizen is not being looked after, and I just wanted to give you my reasons. I was initially upset recently that the city basically kicked us off our beach on Franklin Boulevard and not, because we were playing volleyball. And that's basically our beach. We have families. The families play volleyball there. And it's not, I know everyone says, well, just move down to Neptune. It's not that easy. We have, everybody here probably has a beach you go to.
Everyone
and
has
that's
a
your beach, right? And so going down to Neptune is really, you're going to you might as well be going to Jones Beach, as far as I'm concerned. So that hurt us because that's what we do when we go to the beach. We either surf or we play volleyball. So that was pretty upsetting, and I don't see the reason for the move. The only reason I can come up with, and I might be wrong about this, but there is a multi-million-dollar condo there called the Aqua, and the condo has, they have a concierge service right on their website. It's 24-hour concierge. They're allowed to put all their chairs down there. But this is not a private beach. This is a public beach. So I don't know what the issue is. A lot of us think it might be the condo. Maybe it's some people are complaining. But whatever it is, I think we can work it out and have our volleyball courts in the same spot because we can self-police over there. There's enough of us that can say, hey, what's the issue? Oh, you're blocking. I can't get by. We're blocking. We'll move the volleyball nets to a different area. It's not an issue for us. We're trying to be very respectful to the people but there's plenty of beach there. There's plenty of beach on Franklin. So I think the issue that happened was when we thought it was solved, I don't think everybody knew. Like when they were talking about Lincoln, I look at Lincoln as the surf beach between Jetty and Jetty. We don't play over there. We play on Franklin. So we were told to we can play on Franklin, but they meant Neptune, you know. So there was a lot of misunderstanding there. But during this whole process, I hear that Long Beach is currently in $150 million in debt, but the city would rather, and this is really close to my heart. I'm wearing the shirt right here. But it seems like the city right now, and I was surprised about this, would rather take money from our local charities like the Polar Bear or the Make-A-Wish Foundation, for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, or the Michelle O'Neill Foundation for cancer. And these two charities, as far as I'm concerned, put this place on the map. And instead of trying to retrieve the money from the separation pay or whoever got paid wrongly, we're now going to try to take that money from these charities. So in conclusion, I think it's time to stop harassing families who live here and play volleyball on the beach, and it's time to stop shaking down our charities because we're in debt right now. And it's never been done before. We're not asking for money from the charities before, but now we're asking money for the charities. So those are my two issues that,
So, we all appreciate the volleyball, and we all appreciate having your beach. I think many folks I know, when they were displaced from Superstorm Sandy, were living on one side of the beach, but lugged their stuff all the way to the other side to go to their beach. So we appreciate that. We thought the situation was taken care of. And as far as the mix-up goes, sometimes I think, so I use the beach I call Connecticut, because that's the ramp I go over. But the lifeguards refer to that as Ohio Beach. Ohio is 2 down. So I think there's some sort of miscommunication that hopefully this meeting, Councilwoman Moore talked about on Monday, will rectify the situation, because we're not looking to kick anyone off. We know that residents know not to be in the emergency lane. Residents know these things.
Yeah.
The visitors sometimes don't know that, and they usually just get moved to another location. So we're not looking to kick anyone off the beach. As far as the special events goes, we did table it because there's still a lot of questions we have. But our beach and our city get used by many organizations, and it's just, I guess the council felt that it came to a point where it's at least a conversation that we should have, in that how much of city resources should be used for certain organizations, any organization. There's no, whether it's a charity or a church or a political event, whatever it's going to be, how much of the city resources are we willing to invest in these events? Now, you're wearing the Polar Bear sweatshirt or long sleeve t-shirt. Those are synonymous. You go anywhere in the country and you're going to see that shirt. So.
That's right.
So there's a lot of considerations to be made, and I think that the council, I think wisely decided collectively to table it. I think maybe we need to have a conversation with some of the larger organizations, which would be Polar Bear and AOH and Michelle O'Neill. Those are the 3 biggest events, to come to some sort of solution, because not everyone does participate in those things, right? So where's the balance between all the residents and the special events? And that includes Pride too, right? So that's another big event that we host.
Yeah.
Our beach is spectacular, and people want to use it for lots of different reasons.
And one point that I like to make, and I'll get down. Thank you for your time. Is that I would hold a Polar Bear party at my house with my wife, and we'd raise every year about $20,000 for Make-A-Wish. But never once did we take a cent out of that $20,000 to pay for our Polar Bear party. I just think it's something like, you look at these Make-A-Wish things and the kids that get wishes, and I mean, it's powerful. And there's plenty of kids in this town that have gotten wishes. And
it's a holiday here.
Yeah.
It's an amazing organization. No one
just
disputes that. And giving these wishes to children is, it's an unbelievable day here. But then what they do is also unbelievable. And seeing the photographs, we all experience it the same.
Yeah, I just hate to see like a wish be taken away from one kid because the city had to take, 5, 10 grand, 50. I heard 50 grand thrown around. I would just hate to see that.
Well, there's lots, right? The Electric Light Parade. There's all these different events,
Sure.
And at what point does that number become too big for all the residents?
Right.
And that's the conversation we need to have.
All right, great. We'll look forward to it next on the 17th, right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes.
Bye.
Miss Liz Treston. Good evening. Just state your name and address for the record.
Liz Treston, Long Beach. I recently sent everybody an email, so I'm going to actually just read that for the record. One, I'd like to thank the LEOs and the lifeguards and everyone in the last week's tragic events. I am trying to be idealistic in the face of a city far from recovery of a natural disaster, only to find itself now in the midst of a cataclysmic man-made one. Initially, I wrote this as helicopters were hovering in darkness looking for a boy. Now we know a child and a young man are deceased from the waters we call our backyard. There are smarter people than I that have programs throughout other areas of the country where their backyards are bays, rivers, creeks, and oceans. Should we take the lead and teach water safety outside our city limits? I would also like to address last meeting. The City Council has an expectation as a whole that the gallery understands procedures and functions of how a City Council meeting flows. We assume there will be a Pledge of Allegiance and subsequent agenda items. Is a 10-minute break scheduled in every meeting? When a member is missing from the dais or leaves mid-meeting, it is not our business to know why they leave, but an announcement would be amiable to those that spend their Tuesday evenings trying to understand the complexities of city government. The last few meetings, our acting city manager has left the dais without explanation. Again, he is missing. Last meeting, the attorney left, again with no explanation. When I asked the sitting vice president, Mr. Kalinsky yelled from the side, "He doesn't have to be here." I was taken aback. Why doesn't the attorney need to be there, or the current acting city manager, to advise you or answer questions from the public? What is the protocol? No one knows, not even some council members. We sign our names up front, which again, new people don't know how to do. In all fairness, as Dina Fiore suggested, those that arrive early and sign in should go first during good and welfare. I've just learned that the president sitting does all the shuffling of the papers and chooses who goes first and last. So thanks for that 11 o'clock meeting. The vitriol on the 6th floor is palatable. The last 6 months, the chaos is negative, and these word games grow weary and serve no purpose but to divide a once vibrant community of neighbors helping neighbors. This falls at your feet. We look to you as leaders, but you appear to take directions from outside the city or other entities. Our trust is lost. We are in the 7th month of no city manager or controller, and issues that will impact our city for decades to come rest on the shoulders of the ill-equipped for the decisions that need to be made that are fair and just for every resident. This is not a reflection on our police commissioner. He is a great man that truly loves the city, that he has taken an oath to protect. It's been over a year, and I know my time is up, that Mr. Torres stated questions would have follow-up, so people do not have to come here and repeat themselves time and time again. What happened? Where are the committees we are supposed to have? Brendan just asked for that. Do you know? I'll be happy to tell them. On how does one get before the ethics board? I've asked this before. Frankly, from what I've witnessed, it is something you should all consider. Or is that not what an ethics board is for? Answer, what is the ethics board for? Okay. I ask you to begin explaining to the residents what it is you are responsible for. If it wasn't for Mr. Bendo and Ms. Moore actually reading and scrutinizing what is in the city's charter, surely we would have all followed blindly off the cliff, not caring what awaited us at the bottom. That is until we have to pay for the former city management's purported miscalculations. I remain circumspect moving forward. Any answers? No one knows what an ethics board does.
Your time is up, Ms. Treston. Thank you.
And thank you for not making me go last this time.
I'm happy to answer
Do
that
you want to
question,
speak
Ms.
to the ethics
Yeah, no, Ms.
Thank you.
Cheston, I'm happy to answer your question about the Ethics Board. They have a very discrete set of responsibilities that involves primarily investigating potential financial conflicts. Financial. I'm not sure what the big reveal is. I'm answering your question. I'm not following. What are you trying to do?
She wants to know how the ethics board gets together, I think.
The Ethics Board is complaint driven, so that's what triggers a meeting. No, that was my answer. That was.
I think the question
Ms.
is.
Preston, I
Okay,
think that the
okay,
question...
hold on. Rob, do you want to finish your?
No, that was my answer.
That's his answer. Financial discrepancy.
If I remember correctly, Ms.
Not
Treston,
discrepancies,
the last time you had asked if something
conflicts.
was to go before the Ethics Board, our Corporation Counsel answered your email that was not something based upon the I guess the parameters of the order. No, I understand that, but I guess that's the way that it happens, is that you send an email, make a complaint, and if it's something that falls on the purview of the Ethics Committee, then it's handled by them.
I think for
Financial
purpose of clarification, for over a year, several residents have come to these meetings asking about being appointed to various committees, and the Ethics Committee was actually one of those committees. So I believe your question is really about how does someone go forward with respect to being appointed to the Ethics Committee?
You can send an email to me. I'm a member ex officio, but which means. There. Dina, I'm a member. I'm a member ex officio, which means I'm a member by virtue of holding another position with the city, namely Corporation Counsel. I'm on the Ethics Board, so I'm going to get that complaint one way or the other, and there's no such thing as a confidentiality provision. It's all foilable.
So it's all foilable, and it's financial conflicts.
Right. I know, but it's her. No, it's her 3 minutes, Dina. Could you slide over, Dave? I'm saying that you're more than welcome to do that.
Okay.
No. If a complaint is received, what we do is convene the board.
Ms. Vining.
When was the last time the Ethics Board met?
That I couldn't tell you.
What's that?
I don't know the answer to that question.
But I thought you said you were a member.
I am. But since I became the Corporation Counsel, I've been.
Well, how long? So it hasn't met since you've been Corporation Counsel?
What I'm trying to say is I'm a member since I became Corporation Counsel. It has not met in that time.
Okay, and you've been Corporation Counsel for how long?
January 2015, so a little over 3 years.
So January of 2015. So 3.5 years the Ethics Board has not met?
That's correct.
Ms. Vining. Thank you, Ms. Fiore. Ms. Vining. Name and address for the record.
Judy Vining, 410 East Broadway, and all my life I thought I lived on Lincoln Beach. By the way, I now find out it's Franklin. So I can understand the confusion on everybody's part. In terms of, I just want to pick up on a couple of things in terms of the Public Safety Commission, which you might need at this point. Certainly, Long Beach Aware would like to be included if you talk about, because there's lots of levels of safety that aren't simply physical safety. I hope you all got the letter that we sent to you today. I hand-delivered it yesterday to the city manager's office. But I would like to read it into the record, although that is not the topic for tonight about the festivals. It's an important one. And so, at the June 27th meeting of Long Beach Aware Coalition, there was a unanimous vote to authorize the executive director to send this letter on behalf of Long Beach Aware to you, with copies to the City Council and the Corporation Council. Long Beach Aware's long-standing objection to having alcohol on public property remains. However, we, as well as other experts in the field of prevention, do recognize that there is a difference between one-time events and freestanding structures licensed to sell alcohol on a daily basis on city property. That said, there are suggestions and guidelines from organizations such as the CDC, Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, among others, as to how to best manage these events to minimize the negative impact that can occur without having some strict guidelines. Part of Long Beach Aware's mission is to educate the community as well as the decision makers about the latest research surrounding alcohol and other drugs. In this way, those in a position to enact legislation are armed with the facts and well-researched suggestions on how they can make the best possible choices. We are happy to meet with you and or your representatives to further discuss these issues, including what criteria with respect to how the city clerk will determine whether alcohol is to be allowed. You guys did an amazing job of following some of these, or the police department and all of you are following some of the guidelines in the Pride Parade and also at the Long Beach Film Festival. Among other things, these are some of the suggestions. Separate, distinct areas, which is the only place where alcohol can be served and consumed. Double perimeter around the restricted area. Security to screen for under and over 21. No one under 21 allowed in the restricted area. ID bracelets for those over 21. I'm just going to keep talking because everybody else did.
Please finish as quick as you can.
ID bracelets for those over 21 who enter the restricted areas. This was an interesting one to me. Clear 12-ounce cups designated solely for alcoholic beverages. First of all, it reduces the size, but it also makes it very clear who's drinking what. No more than 1 drink per person sold or served at any time. No more than 3 drinks sold or served to one person during the course of the event. And all alcohol sales or services stopped at least 1 hour, preferably prior to the close of the event. These things make one-time events manageable and safer for the community, sends an equally important message to our youth that it's okay for adults to drink in a responsible manner. It's not okay to have the free-for-alls that we've seen. And so that's an important piece of it as well. And as an aside, just in the last month, there were 5 notices of application to the State Liquor Authority. One of them didn't make it on the website. I understand people can make mistakes, that's not a problem, but I'm wondering why it's not up there now. And 3 of them are now operating under temporary licenses, which will take them through September. So in the past month, we've added 3 more places to our 90+ that sell alcohol beverages. So something you guys need to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you for your consistent advocacy on this issue. Miss Amy Potter.
Amy Potter, East Penn Street. I'm
Thank
just trying to get some clarification about the mobility mats. On your website, it says that the city will provide extended MobiMat access to the surf line of the beach at the following locations: Long Beach Road, Lafayette Boulevard, and Tennessee Avenue.
I'll let you finish your comments, and then I'll ask the DPW commissioner to come up and speak.
My mom is 81. She suffered a stroke She has been fiercely independent, lives here in town. You probably see her. She rides a red tricycle to church, to the grocery store, up and down the boardwalk. And she can't go to the beach anymore unless I'm with her. The mats go not even to the lifeguard stand. Surfline. I have an article about the Commanding Officers Association donating one with flaps so family members can sit around. That was last July 17th. That's all. I'm just curious if...
I mean, I know that the entire city council has advocated for the Moby mats to be placed in as many locations as possible, and we appreciated COA's donation last year.
Where is that one?
I think that one, if I remember correctly, was destroyed. Yeah, so I'll let the commissioner come up and speak
Well,
about...
I just want to say that the press release that the commanding officers gave out said that this type of mat is used, U.S. military drive tanks over them and land helicopters on them. And ours was destroyed
Yeah, I think by the
by a
mechan-
tank.
Well, no, I think by the rakes that clean up the beach, I think. It's out for repair? Oh, so it's coming back. Can you speak about the location? And I know we came up with a little bit of a broader plan this year for the Moby mats and hopefully allow access for everybody to our beaches in as much places as possible. I know the entire council has advocated for that.
Yes, and we did put together a complete plan with input from both beach maintenance and from the lifeguards. I did tour the beach the other day, and we're going to have to rectify a few things. A few things have changed. We have added at each one of the guard shacks, there is the information on where the ADA accessible beaches will be. There's also a phone number, so if a person shows up at a beach that doesn't have a Moby mat that goes to the surf line, we have 6 wheelchairs that are made for taking disabled people onto the beach. All they have to do is call, and within 5 minutes a lifeguard will be there with one of those chairs.
How will they know?
Okay, these are special wheelchairs. My understanding was, I'm not in charge of the lifeguards. My understanding was the lifeguards take them out to the high tide line.
That was my understanding too.
No,
wheel people to specific spots on the beach,
Yeah.
but that they would meet me and kind of hand over the wheelchair to me, but then it was my responsibility to bring her to where she wanted to sit.
I'll review
Follow
that
up
with the chief of
Follow
lifeguards.
up with the chief of lifeguards on
Yes,
that.
please.
And in terms of adding more Moby mats, are we in the process of that? Are they all out? Where are we
There
at?
should be 3 Moby mats that'll be out where we have ADA accessible bathrooms. That would be Lafayette, Long Beach, and not at Minnesota, at Virginia now. Eventually it'll be at Minnesota. We are trying to add extensions to them so that when you come off the crosswalk, that the mat's not right there, because when the mat's right there, everybody uses them. And then they take, I'm trying to talk and I'm trying to tell you what we're doing, okay? And there's so what we decided we'd do is we'd take a 25.
Please.
Okay, Commissioner, please. Please. I know.
Please answer the question.
It's 9:45 at night. I've been here since 8 o'clock this morning.
I
Right?
know. Thank you.
So I don't know, we're working on it. We'll rectify all the situations.
Okay. And we'll follow up with the guards to find out about I think everyone here was under the impression that the guards do wheel folks out to the spot that they want to be in. Oh, you have? Yeah, so, and where they are, okay. Yeah, it's one section at this point, right? So, okay. The intention, as I just heard the commissioner say, was to bring them to the surf line. the issue is with beach maintenance, picking them up and moving them to be able to rake the beach. The beaches don't look like that by accident. They're out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, I think, every single day raking them. So everyone's advocating. I know we all have advocated for equal access for everybody.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can have some information from the lifeguards so that they can speak to the process, because it's already July and we're right back in the same situation. We were here last year, and so we need to do this right away.
What was that name? Jay Gosler. You're up, Jay. Name and address for the record.
Yeah, Jay Gosler, Long Beach. Regard the bond that you guys passed tonight, obviously I don't waste my time with certain members of this council, but Councilmember Bender, Councilmember Moore, I really need to call you guys out on this. I'm very disappointed in your vote tonight in favor of this bond. By your own admission, you didn't have sufficient opportunity to do your due diligence. You were given superficial documents in support of this thing late Friday before a holiday weekend. I do not see, as I mentioned in my earlier comments, where there was any urgency to pass this bond today. The best thing you could cite to in terms of voting for this matter tonight was Mr. Agostisi saying that bond counsel says it's best practice to do it sooner in the year rather than later. Meantime, the last bond for this type of expenditure was brought up months after the money was already paid out. So that argument doesn't hold water. Quite frankly, I'm a little disappointed in you guys. Second thing is, I've been to a number of meetings here now, and I've read Mr. Aramo's comments about the city manager having basically unfettered discretion to hire and fire his senior management without any oversight by the council. To me, that's easily remedied. You guys need to pass some sort of a resolution amongst yourselves that requires any senior hires, whether it be above a $1 threshold or whether it be non-civil service hires, where those people their hiring is brought before this council for, lack of a better term, a confirmation process or something. Something so that somebody beside the city manager decides or at least knows who's getting hired and who's getting fired. It's unconscionable to me that the five of you could not know that a guy was hired at $130,000 or $170,000 a year, whatever the amount was, and that you guys wouldn't know about it. If I was you guys, I'd be pissed, but that's just me. And lastly, on the subject of our city manager vacancy, where are we at with that? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, well.
Well, I'll give you an answer. I
Sure.
was informed as I was walking into the building that there's going to be an announcement Friday, which means at least 3 people up here have made a decision. I certainly wasn't consulted. I don't know if it's true. I'm just telling you what I was told or what I heard. I don't know if anybody else up here wants to
Okay, so
comment on that.
suffice to say it's a done deal, and my worst fears have been realized. Mr. Agostisi is about to become our city manager. All right, well, I'm going to be anxious to see how that plays out. Unlike Mr. Agostisi, who threatens lawsuits and doesn't follow through, I promise you that I will file a lawsuit to prevent a non-complying appointment from being made.
Good luck.
Mr. John McNally.
Excuse me, ma'am. You have no idea the history that exists with this particular employee who was convicted of defrauding the city. Thank you.
Can we, John?
Thank you for making my point. Appreciate it, Mr. Gosler.
Mr. McNally, please state your name and
John
address for the record.
McNally, 613 West Walnut
Thank
Street.
you.
I'm just going to echo what you heard a lot of here tonight. I don't think anybody here wants to be here right now. The tenor in this room is, I mean, it's vile. This stuff that we see on the national level that has no business here. You know, the best days of Long Beach were the ones immediately after Sandy. We've clearly lost those days. Mr. Torres or Dr. Torres always said decorum, please, and you continually echo that. It needs to start from up here. It really does. You guys need to project that. if we are hiring a new city manager, it's within the job qualifications that you guys posted online for good customer service, that that person is able to be the face of the city, that, you know, is able to bring residents along with your collective agenda. That's not happening here. I come up here, we may disagree on things, but I have no personal issues with any of you, and I try and keep my comments, generally speaking, productive. The vibe we've seen tonight, even if there is long past histories, it's inexcusable. I know it's hot as hell in this room. I've been up since 5 a.m. this morning, 4:45 a.m. this morning. I don't want to be here. Half the times I'm here, I'm paying a babysitter so I can be here. And it's not because I want to needle you guys, it's because I want what's best for my city, which I know is the same for all of you people. It's just, I mean, this is profoundly, profoundly depressing, and it's up to you folks. I think you can understand why residents are frustrated. I know you guys are frustrated too, but a lot of the things that are frustrating us happened under this watch. We just want to see the challenges get addressed. We're making some progress on addressing some of the systemic issues, but I don't care how much somebody has come at you guys, you do not go after residents like this. That is not decorum, and that is not setting the bar. It's just, this is just depressing as hell is all I got.
Mr. David Garfinkel. Ms. Rosemary Sheridan. Good evening. State your name and address for the record.
Rosemary Sheridan, 15 Tennessee Avenue, and I live in the West End. I have to let off a little bit of steam, even though there's a lot of steam in this room right now. A week ago, I was at an Army Corps of Engineers meeting, and it was discussed that they were going to start to work on the sand in the West End, okay? I had a meeting with somebody after the meeting was over with that said they really didn't want to start in the West End, but they're being, not forced, but they've been told that's where they have to start. I'm appalled by that. There's as much business in the West End as there is in the rest of the town. In today's paper, there was a piece about Mr. Tagney said something about the West End was the worst hit during the storm, so that's why they're starting there. I don't think that's at all. I just think it's because it's the West End and they have to start someplace. And I know the job has to be done, but I wanted you to know I don't feel happy about it, okay? Before you answer me, I have another question. I live in the West End. I live on the south side of Ocean View. I'm going to kill somebody one of these days. And I seriously mean that. The people on bikes on Ocean View are a disgrace. Okay. I'm shaking in my boots every time I have to go north or south on Ocean View. That somebody is not looking, and I am trying to look, but it's a two-way street. But it's going to be my fault if I hit somebody.
Thank you for your comments. So we did meet with the Army Corps of Engineers. Both Councilman Bendo and myself were also West Enders, and Legislator Denise Ford was also there, along with the rest of the entire council. And it was determined for various reasons. One of them is the piping plovers that live on the edge of the east side, that they could move the quickest through the West End because the dunes are already in place, and it is the narrowest beach in Long Beach. So supposedly they're going to move about 400 feet a day. So, and as they move, they're going to open up the beach behind them.
1 month, they said at the meeting it was going to take.
Yeah, so 400 feet a day. So as they do the area that's closed, and it'll be a much smaller area that'll be closed, like the Groin project. You know that they had a ton of big trucks. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, it'll be 2 trucks, 3 bulldozers. Everything's pumped. You could see the buoys that they already have out there. That's going to be a floating pipe, and it has to come in, it's coming in right,
Yeah,
right about
I was-
grand.
I heard all of that.
Yeah.
I heard
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of that.
So the West End was chosen for a few different reasons, one of them being the pipe and plovers,
Well,
and one of them,
I just really wanted to know how frustrated I was.
and there were 3 West Enders at the meeting that all came to the same conclusion.
And the other thing is, do the people in the West End know that this is going to happen?
I hope so.
I would argue probably not. So
That's why I'm here.
maybe we
Right,
put
so, I mean, it'll be posted.
Yeah, and one of the things I would just tell you to keep in mind is, heaven forbid, we get hit with another storm in September, October. It's going to be the West End right now that's going to be the most protected part of the city on the ocean side.
Okay. All right. And what about the issue about Ocean View with the bikers? Mr. Tagney isn't here, so I can't
Yeah, no,
direct
I mean,
my question to him.
Maybe we'll put you in touch with Commissioner Tagney regarding more traffic safety control issues, and he can discuss
I
it
don't
with
care
you.
what you do,
That
but
would
the
be the starting
people that are on bikes have to know when they see a stop sign, they have to either stop or slow down.
We would hope, but the first starting point would be talking about traffic control.
Well,
but
I'm
we'd hope
standing
everybody
here
would.
saying to you, it's
I use
probably
Ocean
gonna be
View
big.
all the time. I understand. Thank you. Mr. Roy Lester.
Well, now I know you shuffle it, I understand why I'm last, or close to it.
You're not last.
Yeah, well, I was the first, one of the first to put it in. Anyway, Roy
If
Lester.
you were the first to put it in, you would be the last, because I just went straight down the pile.
Okay, so that, the idea then is if you want to speak first, you should be one of the last ones to put it in? Is that how it works? You
It
just
doesn't
said
work any
that.
particular way. The idea is that you fill out the topics so that we can keep the topics kind of together. But most folks, unfortunately, other than Ms. Blanchette, don't usually fill in the topic.
Because we don't know at that point. We don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, a couple of questions. Just out of curiosity, did you pick a city manager? I mean, is what Mr. Bendo saying true?
Please finish your 3 minutes.
No, I'm asking a question.
I'm
Please
refusing
answer
to
the
answer your question.
You what?
I'm refusing to answer your question.
That's fine. That's good enough.
Good.
Okay.
Will you answer it if I ask,
Probably not.
since I'm a council member?
We've had this discussion for months, and I think you know who I've chosen months ago.
I know who you've chosen.
Okay, because, so?
I know that, but that means if you're making an announcement Friday, that means 2 other people sitting up here.
I didn't
have
never
decided
said to you
go
I was
along
making, I never said
without-
to you I was making an
without-
announcement on Friday.
I don't believe there's been a decision of a city manager. We have an acting city manager who is not even here because he wants to be. He wasn't asked to be. We told him he had to fill the position and do it without a salary, at full-time, while being the police commissioner full-time during a summer season. That's what we have.
And we
We
need a,
can't
That's
exist
not
that
my
way.
question.
The
I
question is,
Okay.
did we
Once they're
select a
There's
There's
new
no
city manager?
decision. As
No.
far as I know, there's no decision.
There
And I
is
don't know
no
what you're
decision.
talking about for Friday.
You don't know what? Oh, I heard it from here. I didn't bring it up. You don't know what Mr. Bendo's talking about. Nice way to talk. to you,
Mr.
Counsel.
Lester, there's been no decision on a full-time city manager.
Okay. All right, my questions. This,
So,
It's Ms. Lester's time. We could talk after, but at least give him the respect of letting him finish.
the separation pay, does that count towards pension? Can you stop the clock, please? Thank you.
it's still your time.
I asked a question. Does the separation pay count towards pension?
Do you mean are they accruing pension time
Yes.
after separation pay?
No.
I don't
Does, when
understand the
you get paid, the separation pay, does that count towards your final 3 or 5 years?
I don't believe so. I think it's based on your average, your highest average for 3 years.
Well, it's 5.
Salary?
Yes.
No,
I think it's 3.
it's 3.
3, it depends
Yeah.
on the
It's
tier.
not final 3, it's your highest 3 earning years.
Okay, so that separation pay does not count.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That separation pay does not count towards
I
any
don't
of
believe
those
so.
years.
I mean, I can't answer it definitively, but my belief is no.
Okay, so, but yet you're paying pension on that separation pay. Are you
That-
sure?
No, I don't know the details. That's a
Well,
controller
that's
question.
what we
it's
were
not for me.
told tonight. You're paying pension, and we were talking $700,000 that's going towards pension and Social Security, but you're not sure about that.
And,
Okay.
and I would also hasten to add, I'm not sure, Mr. Lester. So.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Okay, and I guess Mr. Tagney's not here. We don't know what happened with the air conditioning. He said that we didn't have the money to repair it, and then somebody else said it's going to be repaired on Thursday?
I think Mr. Miranda will speak to that.
Okay. All right, and finally, when you were saying that you have notice of everybody that's being hired, but whether a city council person wants to look at that, that's up to them. But you guys have basically, nobody looked and saw that Jim LaCaruba was hired for the full-time position?
I don't think anyone said that.
Anyone said, did you know it?
Did I know?
Well, I'll ask you, you're the president. Did you know he was hired for the full-time position as secretary to the labor relations?
Jim LaCaruba worked here, yes.
You what?
I knew he did, yes.
So when he was hired, the day after he retired, he was hired in that position. You knew that?
I knew he was doing all the labor contracts, yes.
But did you know he was getting paid $130,000? Did you know he was hired at that position of $130,000 the day after he retired?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Does anybody on the council remember?
That's like 2 years ago.
No. Okay.
I wasn't on the council, but I know the position after La Caruba was for $55,000.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing, lifeguards.
That's a completely different job, John. Completely different.
Same title.
But it's a completely different job. That gentleman was hired to run the garage. Now, why that title was used, I don't know, but it was a completely different title. The mechanic garage, not DOT, mechanic, to operate and run the mechanics that we have that work on, I don't even know, hundreds of vehicles that we operate.
Okay.
It's disingenuous to say.
The lifeguards, again. I understand last weekend the lifeguards one night pulled out 10 people after hours, and I've asked about extending the hours, and you're going to have a drowning, you know that, but I don't understand why the hours are not being extended on hot days, on 90-degree days, stuff like that.
We defer to the chief of lifeguards on that, and your time is up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. John Miranda, you have some comments, and can you just please touch on the air conditioning? 10 pounds.
John Miranda, 1
Thank
Westchester Street. At the end of the year, when the bond wasn't passed, we did not have enough money to even pay the contractor who maintains the air conditioning system for the remainder of the year, so we still owed them money. We needed to wait until July 1st and the new budget went into effect. I asked for more money in the building maintenance budget, of which another $25,000 was cut arbitrarily, okay? And we had to wait till July 1st to issue a purchase order. The contractor was in on Monday and Tuesday and did all the testing that needs to be done on an annual basis for Legionella's disease and things like that, chemically cleaned out the whole system, and on Thursday morning they will be activating the system. So as soon as we had money available in the budget and could issue a new purchase order, we did.
Can I just ask a question? If the bond was for separation payments, what would that have to do
Well,
with?
because the bond was part of the overall budget, Mr. Bendo. Okay? The separation pays were made all year. The bond was planned in that budget to cover those costs. So to make those separation pay costs, the money had to
I
come from
understand that.
somewhere.
No, I understand that, but that money was allocated to separation payments. We can reallocate money for separation payments to other things?
No, but we need to move money around to make payment of salaries and pay as many vendors as we could that are doing work. And a lot of vendors didn't get paid till July 7th.
I understand, but then, so what we authorized tonight could be used to pay for Moby mats? Or?
No, when something is authorized for on a specific resolution for a specific account, that's where the money goes.
So
I think what he's saying is,
There's-
since we didn't authorize the bond, they used the other money to pay those payments that they had to pay.
So ironically, the bond
We,
would have been a safeguard.
we made transfers amongst the what are called the 400 accounts, our material and
Mr.
supply accounts and things of that nature.
Commissioner Miranda, Are you saying that ironically the bond would have been a safeguard? If the bond was passed, it would have been specifically for whatever those payments were, that would have been where the bond money would have gone?
Correct.
Okay.
And we would continue to have the
And
cash we
we'll
needed. Okay. Anything else?
Okay, I wasn't going to speak tonight, but something Missy Miller said about respect really triggered something in me tonight. I took this job over a year and a half ago. I interviewed with the existing council members then, Anissa, Scott, and Anthony, and at that time, it was Eileen Gogan and Len Torres. And what I found, and I was offered a job in another village for a lot more money, and I decided to take the Long Beach job because I listened to what all of you said in the interview and how you all cared about the city. And I stay in constant contact with all the members of the board, of the council, and you know, I do my job professionally. And over the last month, I look at people, and over the last year and a half, I've gotten to work with other exempts who I find are as professional as I am. Rob Agostisi, Mike Tagney, other people in the city. And over the last month, it's just been listening to the cat calls when people are talking, and to say that the council is disrespectful. When I listen to the way they disrespect Rob, or they disrespect the commissioner, and I know that everyone's working hard up here. And those that were on the board who reviewed my resume know I have great credentials, and I don't think anybody would argue that. And Julie, John, you guys call me all the time with questions. I answer them. I give you the information you need. I really think that there's a small group in the public that really owes you all an apology. The council members, Rob, Mike, for some of the ways they come up here. If you have a real issue, come up about an issue and be respectful. I don't think everybody's been being respectful. We have a 16-year-old kid that comes up here, and he doesn't even live in Long Beach, and he's disrespectful, and people applaud and cheer. And I hear the cat calls from people. And I think and over the last month, I've been completely disheartened working here. The first year and a half, I really enjoyed it. I feel we're all working to try to improve the life of people in Long Beach. I wake up every morning with that in mind, that I'm here to do a job for the people in Long Beach. And that includes all of you. You guys put in a lot of time for very little money and take a lot of abuse. And when people expect that you should know every single purchase order that goes through, you guys, all 5 of you, would be working here full time, looking over everything. That's why you hire professional staff. That's why the exempts are here. That's why when we get a contract and we go through the bills and my deputy commissioner audits it after looking at all the inspection reports, and then he sends it to me and I audit it and I make sure it's correct and I double check, and then it gets sent to the controller or now the assistant controller, and they check and send it on. If the 5 of you had to, and again, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, you know, people in the public here, People in the public call me all the time, and I respond to them. I go out to the houses and I meet with them, and I'm going to get Jake yelling and screaming at me from the back because I'm trying to make a point. Civility goes both ways, and a lot of these people, like Jake, haven't been civil to any of you. And I'm sorry I had to say this tonight, but I felt compelled. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Have a happy and safe 4th of July, everyone. 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 Safe 4th of July.